All right, let's call it to order the Sparks City Council meeting for June 12th with a roll call.
Mayor Lawson.
Here.
Council members Abbott.
Here.
Vanderwell.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Bybee.
Here.
Dare.
Here.
City Attorney Duncan.
Here.
City Manager Kurtz.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay, we have an invocation by our own Christopher Dare.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Lord, we come to you and we thank you for today. We thank you for all the weather that you brought in. We thank you that you take care of each need that we have. Lord, today we get to celebrate, we get to honor, we get to even shed a few tears. Lord, I first wanted to start and thank you for our very own mayor, Gino Martini, and his family. Lord, today as we honor them, Lord, I pray you be with them, walk with them. Thank you for the life that he served and how he invested in this community. Lord, I also thank you for all the students, Lord, that we're going to honor as they graduate. Lord, be with their parents, whether they're celebrating or crying, whichever moment they have. Lord, I pray you guide them. Lord, I do lift up our first responders. Lord, from our police to our fire to our REMSA. Lord, so many different people are running towards the danger to help save us, Lord, and I pray you be with them and guide them, protect them. Thank you for our veterans, Lord, and those who are enlisted at this moment who are serving to protect our community. And Lord, I do pray for wisdom for this council and for those who serve this city, that we continue to make this city all that it can be. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Bybee, will you lead us in the pledge?
Absolutely. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Are you ready, Julie? We're going to move on to 3.3. We have a memoriam for Gino Martini, our great mayor of the city of Sparks, longest serving mayor of all time at 13 and a half years. He passed away at the age of 77. So we just want to give a little dedication to his life and enjoy the smile that he always had on his face. I love it. of that memoriam. He will have, that was the short version. Yeah, yeah, but he has another one that goes for probably 2 hours. But Donald's put a lot of work into that, and it just shows the dedication of Gino and he had to our city, and he was Sparks through and through. A lot of you don't realize, he grew up right here. His family had a ranch not too far down the road from where we are right today. He always loved to boast that he never left Sparks except the day he was born. And that was, he said, but I came back the next day. So he was through and through Sparks at its core. So we thank you for that. And Ruth, it's good to see you here with us. Thank you so much. We're sorry for your loss. And I'm going to start crying, so let's move on. Does anyone want to say anything? Mr. Dare?
One of the things that's so important for us to realize that anytime we get to pause for a moment and thank those people who did so much work is that we love what we get to do as the City of Sparks, but it's built on so many other people who did so much work. And Gino, as you mentioned, the longest-serving mayor, was a real mentor to all of us in so many ways. And so I just want to give a shout-out to his family. Hopefully, all those listening to Sparks just realize that when you step up and you serve a community, you make a difference, and Gino was one who served in that capacity. A great example and truly a mentor in this space for, like I said, for many of us here.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Thank you for indulging us in that particular item. It was important because he was such a good friend and mentor to all of us in the city, and I think there's so many people that just absolutely loved him, and you saw in those pictures that smile was contagious, and I love that part of it. All right, let's move on to public comment. I have 2 of them. Let's start with Elise Weatherly, and then we're going to go up to Mark. So we need to get him a microphone. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Hi, Elise.
Hello, good morning. I wanted to let you guys know so many different things. This has reminded me that I wish I would have worn my Whitewater t-shirt today because I had Gino Martini's name on it, which is the last time I played with Whitewater. But what I wanted to tell you guys is how hard waiting is. I used to roll my eyes when I had to wait for the managers' meetings to end at the El Dorado. I rolled my eyes when I had to wait to get on the stage with my band, because once you log in, haul in all your equipment and stuff, you have to wait till they're ready for you to play. Then you can hardly wait to get home. What I have decided to do is, in my memorial, and I've already talked to Tom Gordon about this, I want it to be a celebration of mashed potatoes, because if anyone has anything nice to say about me, they're going to get smothered with mashed potatoes. Then I'm going to do my own version of people, which is people who use people are the suckiest people in the world. And the problem is that we've got people to serve and protect, right? But who are you going to protect? You're going to protect the criminals from me or vice versa? Do you guys ever watch Perry Mason? I love the DA on there, Hamburger, right? Why he was not fired from that series is beyond me. But what we've got in our community are DAs that don't throw innocent people in jail. They're good at what they do, and I'm very grateful for that. And also, Larry Hall, I met a man named Larry Hall, who is a resident here of Sparks for a long time. I met him through Dr. Davis Chiropractor, owner of Imirage Sound Lab. He was my handyman. He would help me come and do things, right? And I needed his help on something, but I knew he was dying of cancer. When somebody is dying of cancer, you don't come and ask them to get on their knees and fix your garbage disposal. You just don't do that. People that are users do that. Did you know what I've learned from God? I am not to gloat when my enemy falls, not if, when. And do you know why I'm not supposed to do that? I do. I looked it up and I almost gasped when I found out what would happen if I were to gloat when my enemy falls. And so you know what? I made a deal with God because I can't seem to change. I am who I am. I don't want to know when they fall. I don't want to be around when they fall. I also told a young man in my life, I said in 2015, I was told, I'll heal you. And then I went, no, God didn't say, I'll heal you. He said, I'll sustain you. There's a difference. So what I'm doing now is I'm checking things off the list so I can get things done and put my house in order. All I'm saying is that anybody that claims to be a Christian and has never heard from the voice of God, you better check your documentation and your manual, because, and God is not all woozy and fluffy and stuff like that to me. He's yelled at me a couple times. He's told me I was doing it wrong. He told me how to do to correct things. That's my God. And so you know what my responsibility is? Oh, to listen and to pay attention. So I know Tony Armstrong's first and third wife, by the way. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Elise. Mr. Mark Markel.
I am going to read for Mr. Markel. A Yucaipa man was in critical condition Friday at Loma Linda University Medical Center, where he was taken for treatment of head injuries after a car crash Thursday, authorities said. Mark Markel, 24, was thrown from a 1977 Datsun as it overturned on Live Oak Canyon Road at the eastbound Interstate 10 off-ramp at 4:30 p.m., said California Highway Patrol Officer Amber Drysdale. The driver was heading south on Live Oak Canyon Road when he lost control of the car, struck a curb, and skidded into the off-ramp. The vehicle rolled over several times and landed on top of Mark Markel, Drysdale said. The cause of the accident is being investigated.
Hi, my name is Mark Markel. I'm a concerned Nevada resident. I'm sorry. Right, the concern is what
Just speak loud, Mark.
Talk really loud.
hello, everybody. I used to deal drugs back in the day. I used to be no good. You want a career and you don't want to deal drugs. But anyways, I did. And now I'm here today to show you and warn you about driving with a drunk driver. It ruined my life. I collect SSI, and I have 2 children. Well, I call them children. They're adults now. But I never did anything with them. They live in Southern California, and I live up here in Nevada. And so you want to get a career and stay in school and get a career. I'm goofball. I'm not, but I had a car land on my head. But anyways, it's just pointless not to. I can't emphasize get a career first. I've been on SSI for who knows how long, but I've never even been on vacation with my kids.
Thank you, Mark.
There's the buzzer and my time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you don't drive drunk drivers.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wishing to speak at this time? If not, I'm going to bring it back to the dais, and we're going to move to approval of the agenda. Anyone wishing to pull an item from the agenda, move an item? If not, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Anderson.
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, minutes. Any additions, corrections on the minutes? If not, I'm looking for a motion. Ms. Bybee,
I move to approve the minutes of the Sparks City Council meeting for May 22nd, 2023.
Mr. Dare.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, let's move on to proclamations. Juneteenth Day. Do we have anyone here for that? Come on up. Sit down right there, and we'll have you say a few words afterwards. And who has this one?
I do.
Christopher, thank you.
I'm going to read this and then feel free to share. I do want to share that this is a very important thing in my own personal family. And so I'm very thankful to get to read this here today. It's actually also my anniversary on this day. I'm 30 years married to my beautiful wife, who is African American, who together, if this did not happen, I would not get to celebrate. So I'm very thankful. So, whereas on January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation declaring that all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States, shall be thenceforward and forever free. And whereas more than 2 years passed before June 19th, 1865, when Union Major General Gordon Granger and his regiment arrived in Galveston, Texas, and the news that slavery had been abolished reached African Americans who were still enslaved there. And whereas since June 19th, 1865, Juneteenth, Independence Day, has been one of the most recognized African American holidays observances, is the oldest national commemoration of the ending of slavery, and is also known as Emancipation Day, Freedom Day, Juneteenth, National Freedom Day, and Juneteenth. And whereas Juneteenth recognizes African American survival of the unknowable adversity and hardships of slavery through strength and determination, and commemorates the day with the last slaves in the United States were finally free. And whereas historical documents indicate African Americans were business and property owners in Virginia City by 1866 and contributed to the early mining and development of the Silver State and construction of the Hoover Dam. And whereas despite the significant historical and modern achievements of African Americans and other people of color still face many hardships that hinder realizing our nation's promise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas Juneteenth is an important opportunity to reflect on and renew our commitment to the work that remains ahead to end inequity. And whereas on Juneteenth, we are reminded to honor and celebrate the achievements and contributions of African Americans have made and continue to make to the city of Sparks, the state of Nevada, and our nation. Now, therefore, Ed Lawson, Mayor of the city of Sparks, Nevada, does hereby proclaim June 19th, 2023 as Juneteenth Day. And everyone says, yeah! Thank you for being here.
Give us your name for the record, please.
My name is Jessica Van. I serve as president of the Northern Nevada Black Cultural Awareness Society. This is Miss Akia Sanders. She is our program chair.
Okay. Do you have anything to add?
First off, thank you very much, Mayor Lawson and council members and City of Sparks for this proclamation. We appreciate that you are acknowledging this day as a very important event in American history. And we would like to invite all of you and all that are attending to attend our Juneteenth Festival, which will be on the 18th. And yes, it is Father's Day, and yes, it is your anniversary. And that'll be Sunday, the 18th, from, we'll have church in the park from 11 to 7 p.m. There'll be food, vendors, there'll be things for all ages. We also want to say that this is now a state holiday, and as the state and the federal have availed state and federal workers to have the day off on Monday, that you have no reason to not be at the park on Sunday. And so, just once again, thank you very much.
You. When we, I want to get a picture with you guys, with Christopher, if you don't mind.
Yes,
Come up right over here.
Yes, it'll be at Idlewild Park.
Idlewild, okay, thank you.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
No. Take a picture.
Okay, we have another proclamation, Pride Month. Ms. Vanderwell. Do we have anyone here to accept this one?
It said no one on the little side.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oops. Whereas all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, and the City of Sparks supports the rights of all persons to experience equality and freedom from discrimination. And whereas lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ individuals have an immeasurable impacts on the cultural, civic, and economic successes of our country. And whereas the City of Sparks honors the history of LGBTQ libertarian movement and pride, inclusion, and support for social movements that advocate for the LGBTQ people in society. And whereas the City of Sparks recognizes the LGBTQ residents whose influential and lasting contribution to our neighborhoods make the City of Sparks a vibrant community in which to live, work, and visit. And whereas the City of Sparks is committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equality for LGBTQ people in our diverse community. And whereas while society at large increasingly supports LGBTQ equality, it is essential to acknowledge that the need for education and awareness remains vital to ending discrimination and prejudice. And whereas this nation was founded on the principle that every individual has infinite dignity and worth, and the City of Sparks calls upon the people of this municipality to embrace this principle and work to eliminate prejudice everywhere it exists. And whereas celebrating Pride Month increases awareness and provides support and advocacy for the LGBTQ community in the City of Sparks, and is an opportunity to take action and engage in dialogue to strengthen alliances, build acceptance, and advance equal rights. Therefore, I, Ed Lawson, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim June 2023 as Pride Month.
Okay, we have another one, Men's Health Month. Mr. Dare, do we have anyone here for that one?
That one's mine.
Sorry. Men's Health.
I mean, I'm manly.
No,
Mr. Anderson.
Okay.
I need the police chief to keep this guy under wraps, please.
Whereas, despite advances in medical technology and research, men continue to live an average of 5 years fewer than women, with Native American and African American men having the lowest life expectancy. And whereas educating the public and healthcare providers about the importance of a healthy lifestyle and preventive care, healthcare will lead to an earlier detection of male health problems and lower the rate of mortality from disease. And whereas men who are educated about the value of preventive health care in prolonging their lifespans and their roles as productive members of their communities are more likely to participate in health screenings. And whereas fathers who maintain a healthy lifestyle are role models for their children and have happier, healthier children. And whereas the Men's Health Month website has been established at www.menshealthmonth.org and features resources, proclamations, and information about awareness, events, and activities, including Wear Blue Day for men's health. And whereas Men's Health Month focuses on a broad range of men's health issues, including heart disease, mental health, diabetes, prostate, testicular, colon cancers, and people are encouraged to increase awareness of the importance of a healthy lifestyle, regular exercise, and medical checkups. Now, therefore, Ed Lawson, Mayor of City of Sparks, do hereby proclaim June 2023 as Men's Health Month.
Okay, now we're going to move on to 7.4, acknowledging students from Excel, Hug High, Reed High, not Spanish Springs, Sparks High, who have signed letters of intent for college sports. So can I have Reed High come down first? I'm going to read I have 19 names, but it seems like there's only a couple here. I'm going to read them out for you. And come over this way for me. So there's 19 from Reed High that signed letters of intent. Spencer Firebaugh, Aiden Flores, Malik Henderson, Julio Hurtado, Juniel Zarate. Did I say it right? Wrong? Chris Negret, Leslie Jacobo Duran, Haley Rock, Bella Brown, Anika Matthews, Elizabeth Espinoza, Carolyn Glover, Peyton Jones, Kaylee Eric, or Irk, Trevor Martin, Toby Perry, Landon Loudenberg, Taylor Sid, and Mackenzie Kelly. And who do you have with you, Mr. Dare?
I don't know yet.
For the millions of listeners we have out there that watch the Spark City Council.
Like right now?
Yes.
Taylor Sid,
Hi, Taylor. Thank you.
Can they tell us their sport?
Yeah, and tell us your sport, too.
volleyball and lacrosse,
Thank you. Where'd you sign at?
Wells College.
Wells College? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Glover, and I'm going to Louisiana Tech University, and I play softball. And also, thank you for having us.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
My name is Christopher Negrete. I play football. And thank you for having us.
Where are you going to go?
Sterling College.
Sterling?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Do you mind if I just say something real quick?
You can.
Thank you. So our goal with this, I'm gonna sit down so you can hear me, was to just honor all the students and from every graduate from the city of Sparks. So next year, I need you guys to do me a favor and share with your friends, tell them all to come. We'll do a big cheer and a celebration for them. I know you'll be gone by then, but you can spread the rumor. But we'll come down to your school though and hand these out to the rest of the students. And so we'll do that as soon as we can, because I know you, how many days you have left?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow's it. Well, I'll see you tomorrow. I just committed to that, didn't I?
Sounds like it.
With that said, and I do want to apologize, Spanish Springs, we will make sure that we have plenty of students there. We did not get their names this time, but we will be honored to bring down some to them as well. So let's get our picture.
I want to hear the fight song.
Yeah, I did.
That is completely fine. Spencer Fireball, all right.
Yeah, come on.
Right?
It's okay, thank you. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to read Sparks High School. Mr. Abbott, Mr. Sparks High School himself. Anyone from Sparks High School here? Nope, okay, I'm going to read it anyways. James Fleck, David Garcia Romo, Jennifer Estrada Galindo, Raul Aya Dimas, Orande Todd, Alyssa Carmargo. Okay. Since none of them were here, we'll move on to Hug High School. We have anyone from Hug High School here? Come on down. And tell me your name. That way we'll get searching for your certificate first.
Hi, my name is Jaime Montero Lopez. I'm going to be playing soccer at Team CC.
Congratulations.
And hi, my name is Catherine Rubio Martinez, and I'm going to be also playing soccer at Team CC.
Congratulations to both of you. All right, so here's the Hug High School list. Federico, wow. Federico Bernabe Barajas, Jamie Montero Lopez, Jaime, I said it wrong. Brandon Escobar Silva, Jocelyn Lopez Luco, Matai Messina, is that correct? Latoa Faulo. No, I messed that one up big. Okay, thank you. Lavina Moala. Izel Moctezuma. How do you say it? Izael. Thank you. Miguel Maldonado Escobar. Magali Camarena Guerrero. Brenna Liu. Catherine Rubio Martinez. Okay. Congratulations, guys. To do another quote from Gino Martini, it'll be the best 6 years of your life. Can't pass those up. Now we have a presentation by our very own Mr. Grant Denton on responsible giving. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you guys want to, if you want to bail out on us, you're more than welcome. We don't have to stick around for the meeting, especially for this guy. Thank you.
Enter screen, we'll go to the next.
Okay.
Oh, that's his.
Grant?
My man. Well, hello. I'm Grant Denton. I'm with the Karma Box Project, and I work with homeless in the region, and it goes without saying that we need help. We
Just
always
turn
need
one of
help.
those off, Grant.
Huh?
Turn one of them off.
Which one do you like? There you go. There you go. There you go. So I work with homeless in our region, and it goes without saying that we need help. We always need help. It's a good idea if the village pitches in to help people move out of this condition into the next. But what we find is, and it's so this presentation is about how can we be the most efficient with how we help our most vulnerable. Everybody wants to give, we want to do good things, but sometimes there are unintended consequences that we don't pay attention to in the beginning, that we aren't around long enough to see the outcomes of. A lot of what we do is heart driven when we help. It's heart driven, it's passion, right? But if we've ever been in a terrible relationship, you know that your heart can be wrong sometimes. I know. and your heart's what gets you up, but logic is what solves problems. And so what we're going to try to do is I'm going to try to introduce and present some of the unintended consequences of helping in the wrong direction and some possible solutions that we can look at as citizens and as a region. And it's only an hour and a half presentation. I'm joking. Okay. Let's start with homelessness. The history of homelessness in America, the briefest version of it is, it was identified around 1640, and spikes were usually right after wars, right after times of wars, and it was when individuals were displaced and they would be homeward bound, and that's where we got the term hobo, is because it was homeward bound, shortened up. So people, and this was more of a situational homelessness. Now, homelessness now is a lot more complex, so helping will become a little more complex. The history of helping is since the beginning of time. We've done it forever. Why we help? Well, we're wired to do it, and we're called to help. First of all, altruism makes us feel good. There's evidence to suggest that, when you help others, it promotes a physiological change in the brain that's linked with happiness. So it makes us happy. We have a sense of connection, and it encourages us to be more active in our own lives. And a lot of faiths, like we're called to do it. There's a lot of churches and faiths. There's even scripture that says, I tell you, in as much as you've done for the least of my brothers and sisters of mine, you've done for me. So we're called to do it. It's our duty. We're wired and called to do it. What we find is that there's spectrums of help, right? And right in the middle, there's a kind gesture. I would look at it like maybe the Karma Box Project. The boxes in and of itself are kind gestures, right? We're not solving too many problems except for an immediate problem right now. And on the far end of it, on this side, it's actually solving the problem. So for example, if you look at food insecurities, a kind gesture for someone that's hungry would be to give them a granola bar. You solve the problem for this moment. It's a kind gesture, but what about tomorrow? And then so you look into actual solving the problem, which would be putting someone in a position to never be hungry again, right? So self-sufficiency, getting them there. The thing is the further you move towards solving the problem, the more time and energy and resources it takes to get an individual there. So you got kind gesture, and then you move all the way to the other side, and there's pathological altruism, where helping actually starts causing a problem. And it's a heavy term, right? And I don't know if I've ever actually seen something pathological, but we've seen close. And I'm going to give some examples where it actually starts causing problems. So for example, in front of the shelter, at the shelter, we have to order food per individual, right? So who's in our camp? From the camp perspective, you have 45 people, 50 people. We order that many people per pod. We order that many meals so that we're not wasteful. Well, when somebody pulls up outside and they set up a banquet table and they start serving food around the time that we would be serving food, and I had somebody do that, and I'm like, hey, thank you, but when they come here and eat here, we're gonna have to throw all of our trays away. Any tray that they don't eat will get thrown away. So it'd be cool if we coordinated so that we wouldn't order these. And the woman was really kind, and she said, yeah, but our food's better. I was like, make no mistake about it. Your food is better. But we're also being wasteful. And so that would be kind of more pushed in the other direction of a kind gesture because of the waste. Another example is we got a lot of folks that'll come out to the streets and set up on a sidewalk. And when they set up on a sidewalk, this is great, right? We're giving things. But there creates a line on the sidewalk, and anybody who would have otherwise walked on the sidewalk will now have to walk into the street. And so it causes kind of a safety problem. And then we look at, folks walking down the street, handicap guys on their, mobility scooters or wheelchairs or walkers will have to move out there as well. And so it causes issues like that. We sometimes get into business parking lots, and a lot of times we'll bring people and we give what we have to give, and we'll leave. And when we leave the people. And a lot of times with people, especially there's a portion of our population that are mentally ill, that do suffer from substance use disorder. And whether it's a chicken or the egg, whether they're self-medicating because there's undiagnosed mental illness, or whether they're created a mental illness from using, it causes behavioral issues. Now, if you bring somebody to a park or to someone's business parking lot, and then you leave them there without properly managing them or the trash, it does cause issues. And I've had people come up and they've first been on the sidewalk, and I'm like, I don't know if this is a good idea because you got people in the street now. And the folks are like, well, where do I go? I'm like, well, I can't tell you that. And they're like, well, I'll go to that parking lot. I'm like, yeah, but that's not your parking lot. And if you have permission, I totally get it. But then it turns into, yeah, but their business is closed. And then my response is often, if you're not home, can I use your driveway for a yard sale? And it's logic, right? But we also have to, there's things that happen afterwards. So who's responsible for our giving, as not just the people, but what happens, the outcomes afterwards. There's folks that come out with brown bags full of lunch items. That's cool, totally get it. But we'll give folks 3 or 4 of the bags. We also won't ask people if they're hungry. We just start handing bags out. The guy was doing it on the streets, and he's handing 4 or 5 bags out. And I just wanted to kind of mention, and it was as I was cleaning up trash from the prior group that came out and gave and left. And so I asked the gentleman, did you ask these guys if they were hungry before you handed them 4 bags? Because what happens often is in the bags, you'll have an orange, you'll have a sandwich, you'll have a granola bar, snack pack, maybe what are the sippy cups, right? You know, the juice boxes, which are great. I love juice boxes. But we hand all these things out, and somebody will take just the sandwich, or just 2 sandwiches, or a sandwich, and an orange from the bags, and throw the rest away. So, and then we'll end up picking them up. Now, so I asked the gentleman if he would hang out or at least send the message, like when you hand them out, plant the seed to remind them, hey, remember to throw this away, remember to throw away. And the guy got upset with me and said, I've been doing this for 15 years. I'm like, yeah, that's 15 years of trash that we've had to clean up, bud, please. You know, and not that like he's not doing it out of the kindness of his heart, and we get it, but there's some outcomes that we're not really paying attention to. I know we've all been out to eat, and we take a condiments bag, and it has a fork, a spoon, a knife, the salt, the pepper, a moist towelette, and we take out the fork, we throw the rest away. So we have to be mindful of these things, because it's not just, there's more to it, right? So unintended consequences of unchecked altruism would be the trash, property, waste, wasted food, blankets, clothes, deflation of psychological drive, hoarding. And before we start giving, we have to ask, like, what's our desired outcome? What do we want to come of this? And this would also help us when we give. This is Betty. Betty was in a park this picture was taken as they were clearing the park. You had about a camp of, I think we remember this, we had about a camp of maybe, it was about 20, 30 folks there. And Betty moved here with a tent, and I know because we were doing outreach in this area for quite some time, with a tent, a cooler, a few backpacks full of things, a sleeping bag, and I believe that's it. And in 3 months, from when she got there to this picture, she'd acquired this much stuff. How did Betty get that much stuff? Well, it's because when we come out to help, we ask Betty, what can I do to help you? Well, help you do what? And that's the question, help you do what? And a lot of times, Betty's time horizon is today. How can Betty survive today? So help her do what is the question, and Betty's gonna tell you what she needs to help her survive right now. And all of these things help Betty survive right now. She's got a closet, for crying out loud. There's an armoire in there, there's tarps, I understand tarps, there's crates, there's an umbrella. And Betty finds value in things. And so Betty's hoarding a little bit. And that's kind of us contributing to keeping Betty right where she's at. You can either successfully move someone out of homelessness, or you can create a really successful homeless individual. And that's where Betty's at right now. Now, if we offered her, if we were really good outreach guys, and we're like, hey, you want to go to the shelter? And she said, yeah, where does her things go? Because those are her things now. And if she wanted to go to treatment, they won't take those things in treatment. And if you wanted to send her to a family member somewhere in California where her daughter lived, who's going to manage her things? And these all belong to her now. So then you'll have to have the trash or treasure conversation, and there's a lot that goes to that. So this was one situation. This was under the Wells Bridge between 2020 and 2021. We would pick up about roughly around 80 yards of trash per week. And when you did the math based on how many people were there, you look at the average American produces 5 to 7 pounds of trash per person per week. In this camp, it was 40 plus pounds of trash per person. There's a lot of reasons for that. One of the reasons is because we live a disposable lifestyle, paper plates, paper cups, mostly things that we'll throw away. But another reason is because people bring them in. They would bring the things. We would watch them show up and set up tables. Nobody's coordinating with who's there, who else brought what, and this isn't a homeless thing, right? If you take a banquet table and go out to Collin Ranch and or Spanish Springs, or go out to a really, really, think of your nicest neighborhood. If you take a banquet table, set it up and put boxes that say free on them, they're gonna take them. This is a human thing. We just take free, you can put rattlesnakes in the boxes and they'll still take them. So it's a thing, we take the things. And so, and also everything on the streets. Now this dips into the cultural side. Everything on the streets is currency, right? So if you don't have any income, you turn the things into currency. We barter for stuff. We trade things. This is Fisherman's. Now, I'm sure everybody in this room can agree that you don't bring queen-size mattresses out to camps. That guy's sleeping on 4 of them. Now, all those are his clothes, and they're clothes from when people set up the banquet tables and be like, take what you need. He needs them all, and he took them all, and he set up his own little shop there, and those were his, and you had to really negotiate with this guy to start cleaning some stuff up. And so this also pinned this gentleman to this place. And when it comes to clothes, it's interesting because we don't have access to washing our clothes on the streets. So how do you, as a helper, solve that problem? Wash their clothes for them. That would be more effective than bringing more things because we're throwing stuff away, we're piling them on. Some of these clothes are dirty. Some of them haven't been put on yet. So if we really want to help, that would be the way to solve a problem. I know it's complex. I know it's not easy. But again, what outcome do we want to come of this? So like I said, everything on the streets is currency. So we keep the things. One issue we run into when we help, especially when we're bringing it directly to them, is a deflation of, well, let me back up. That would be a question asked. This tray came out with a group of folks that just brought so many food and they handed this thing of meat or carne asada or what it is to one individual. It was like, here, take it. And it just ended up in the park there. And this happens often. So where things will get just dumped off, they just assume that because we're homeless, we're just gonna eat it. This is another issue that we have is folks will think that all those boxes were full of expired food. There were chips, right? They expire, right? And so these chips were taken off the shelves and dumped in the camp by someone. And what happens when you just dump stuff in the camp is not only is it not cool to just throw things on the ground, but it's also it causes conflict, right? So we had an issue where somebody came out with huge bag. And it was actually at the shelter on Record Street. Came out with a huge bag of jackets. They had jackets in there. They tied off the bag and they threw it out of the car. And people start digging through it and find you got one guy on one arm of the jacket, the other guy on the other arm of the jacket, and they're circling each other. And so it caused a huge conflict. And it's not a good sight to watch folks digging through and fighting for things that like that. The deflation of psychological drive, it's just deflating the inspiration of someone to move forward with a basic need or care for oneself. The more we bring things out to the camps, the more we condition people to stay put. That is all. And I've had them ask me before, hey man, you got something to eat? And I'm like, no, but I'll take you to where they have service, where they will serve food. And they're like, I'm cool, I'll wait, someone will come. And they do. They come every time. And so another question that's always asked is, what if everybody, should I give to people that are standing on the side of the freeway, people on the side of off-ramps? And the answer to that is a question. What do you think would happen if you didn't? If everybody in the city decided that we stopped giving things on the side of the freeway, what would happen? Would they starve? Probably not. The reason they're doing it is because it's worked. It's worked up to this point. we wouldn't starve. Actually, they would be driven to services. We want people to come to us. You want people to go to the services. You want them to accept services. It's difficult to work on people if you don't have them, if we don't know who's on our streets. So I know it feels good, but I don't know if we're solving the problem, do you know? And I wouldn't say it's pathological altruism, giving a few bucks at an off-ramp, but I don't know if we're solving a problem and it's a kind gesture that kind of leans to the pathological side, if that makes sense. And I know that's a heavy term, so I'm not going too hard with it. The biggest barriers to proper help is a lack of understanding, a lack of understanding resources, lack of understanding culture. The reason I put propane there is because we had a group, had a great idea to bring propane out to the camp. They wanted to help folks heat their tents. But this group didn't know how to refill propane tanks. And so when they're refilling people's propane tanks, some of them were non-refillable propane tanks. Some of them didn't properly have the gaskets on, which led to these tents burning down. Now that's the heating fire issue. Now, when you go into a camp, one thing you have to understand is that there is a culture. Maybe you might not understand it. Part of it is there's leadership there. Some people move to positions of power like any group of folks that you put together. What the group did is they came out and they picked somebody or a couple somebodies to be the propane people, to manage the fire, which gave these individuals a sort of power, right? And when you give somebody a power that they wouldn't have organically got, it puts a hook in the power dynamic that causes problems. And the propane turned from a heating element to a currency, right? Where this individual was trading propane for drugs and goods and sexual favors and all types of things like this. And it caused a power dynamic that outside of propane fires in the tents, there was more first responder calls because of the abuse that was happening. People are getting into more fights. They're stealing from each other. There's more ambulance calls. It caused this ripple in the culture that caused a bigger problem than actually being cold, a much larger problem. And so, what it comes down to is, I think to solve that problem, as an example, they would have just filled it, had somebody that knows how to fill propane and done each individual propane tank themselves. They just wanted to save time and energy and caused a huge problem. And I know that it's coming from a great place, but there was an outcome that wasn't so cool. And a lot of times when we help, we just want to do what we want to do, and we don't want to do what's necessary. Right? And so that is what ultimately causes the problem. I think the call to action would be you bring what's actually needed, which would require you to maybe come out before and ask, what do you really need to survive, to move to the next fit? Not need to stay put, but need to get out, right? Harm reduction is a great idea. If somebody's starving, bring them food. Don't bring them all the food. If you pack it in, pack it in, pack it out. Be responsible for that you helped create. That's supposed to say waste. And I put that in there on purpose to let you guys know that it's okay to make mistakes. Sometimes we have typo errors. I know I read that afterwards. I'm like, oh. Now, know your resources and partner with agencies that are already doing the work. Volunteer with folks. Find agencies that are already teaching people how to ride this bike, and volunteer with them, monetary donations, or go help them directly. And part of knowing your resources is what we've done is we created this QR code. If anybody wants to scan that right now with your phone, it has every provider available in this region, with homeless services, to Social Security, to welfare service, to the food card, to anything that you could possibly need to climb out of this condition is on that QR. It also has a map from where you're at now to where you want to go. So if you want to go to the VOA, you scan that, click on the VOA, and it'll walk you there. And then a regional resolution. I think I've been places and I haven't seen any region that's doing this yet, and it would be just a coordination of efforts. You know, like the QR code, that would be just an updated website of services, an updated list of places to donate to and specific items. So a dashboard that's current with what they need. A lot of folks just want to get rid of stuff. We start dumping things places. But if we knew who needed what and where we could get it to them quickly, that would be great. A hub for outreach workers. I believe that if you're gonna go serve food, bring an outreach provider with you. So if somebody's in a moment where they need help right now, that outreach provider can grab them and run with it. A lot of times, the window for change on the streets is really narrow. So if you have it, take it, know what to do with this person. And a hub for specific needs, which will kind of qualify in that QR code would work. And a calendar with locations of organized food distribution, so where you could send folks. And if you're gonna serve food on the streets, I think there should be a sanctioned site where, you know, where everybody can just go here, to where we're not in businesses, we're not on the streets, we're not in front of the shelter, we're not, you know, and it's a place where when people are hungry, they know where to go there. So it would just, you know, turn into a community sanctioned site to serve. And our desired outcome right now is to just create a strong social fabric. I did steal this from Google, but it's so great. This will provide more and better actions between members. Actually, no, I didn't. I stole it from somebody. This will provide more and better actions between members of the community so that they can be more involved, have a greater sense of fulfillment, greater willingness to help when there's a need, and to be inspired to keep this village a more positive and pleasant place to live. And that is all.
Okay, questions from the council? Anybody? I know from my time on the Community Homeless Advisory Board, that was one of the bigger things we had, is people just dropping stuff off. And if you think about it, if you bring someone a dinner to their tent, it's really is room service is what it amounts to. We need to get people motivated, and if, like your example, the guy who said, I'll wait, someone will come along and bring me some food. So it's creating that culture to stay in that area.
Yeah, and it's not meant to point fingers, like, don't serve food, don't this, but just know.
There's a way to do it.
Yeah, and there's a role to play, and we just have to understand what's necessary, what isn't, and how can we be more efficient with how we help, because we would probably do a lot more if we helped in the right direction.
Anything?
I'll just share that, you know, one of the things that there's so many people have good hearts right here in our own city. And so if you're one of them, the more you can educate yourself on what's happening, if you really took all the waste that he just spoke about and we pulled that together, we could help so many more people. Yeah. And that's the idea of it. And instead, sometimes we're having to spend more money to help clean up or work on what is given. And so it's just one of those things that's so important. As a region, we're doing incredible things for for those that are finding themselves in this homeless situation. There's awesome stuff going on, but it's because we're working together. So we're just asking you to be a part of that team. And so Grant's done a great job. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thanks, Grant.
All right.
Appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to consent items. Anyone wishing to pull a consent item? If not, I'm looking for a motion. Ms. Vanderwell.
I move to approve consent items 8.1 through 8.6 as submitted.
Mr. Dare.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to general business 9.1, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the mayor's 3 appointments to the Sparks Parks and Recreation Commission from the following pool of applicants listed in alphabetical order: Terry Frugoli, Shonda Golden, Leslie Hicks, Mabi Michael, Melissa Nordine, Marcy Onkal, Matthew Robinson, Melanie Jill Short.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson and members of the council. For the record, Neil Cruch, your city manager. Here today asking you to consider ratifying the mayor's choices for the 3 vacancies we have on the Sparks Parks and Recreation Commission. We have 7 voting members on that commission, plus a council member liaison, which I believe is Councilmember Abbott, and then our current vacancy in Parks and Recreation Director to make a group of 9. And with that, I believe you've got 3 names in front of you.
So the ones I picked was Terry Frugoli, Matthew Robinson and Melanie Jill Short. With that, I'm looking for comments or a motion. Mr. Anderson.
I will make a motion to appoint Terry Frugally, Matthew Robinson, Melanie Short to the Sparks Parks and Recreation Commission, each with terms ending June 30th, 2026.
Mr. Abbott.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. 9.2. You want to read this one, Neil?
I would be happy to.
Thank you.
This consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the mayor's appointments to the Sparks Civil Service Commission from the following pool of applicants listed in alphabetical order: Barbara Ackerman, Rich Armstrong, Jenna Garcia, Douglas Marsh, and Justin Shore. Mayor Lawson has picked two names to fill the two vacancies that we have on the Civil Service Commission. That is a group of 5, and there are 3-year terms for that as well. And I believe you have the names in front of you.
Yep. Jenna Garcia and Justin Shore. With that, questions or comments or motion, Mr. Dare.
I move to appoint Jenna Garcia and Justin Shore to the Sparks Civil Service Commission, each for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2026.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Neil. 9.3, consideration, discussion, of possible action relating to filing an you would put that in there for me. The lawyers always get the interlocutory appeal pursuant to NRS 41.6704 related to court's denial and the anti-SLAPP motion filed by the city and Neil Kreutz and the Mark Lawson v. City of Sparks et al., case number CV 23-00458. Eric.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, for the record, my name is Eric Potter, Senior Assistant City Attorney. I know we've already discussed this issue in our attorney-client session, but I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
All right, questions from the council? If I don't have any, then I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Anderson.
Move to direct the city attorney to file an interlocutory appeal pursuant to NRS 41.6704 on behalf of the City of Sparks and Neil Kreutz in Lawson versus City of Sparks et al., case number CV 23-00458.
Mr. Abbott.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Barrett.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
We are. 9.4, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a construction contract, AC 5952, with Sierra Nevada Construction in the amount of $611,007 for the 2023 Preventative Maintenance Slurry Project, bid number 22/23-0030, PWP-WA-2023-2217.
Thank you, Mayor Lawson, members of council, Amber Sosa, Transportation Manager. As introduced, for your consideration, this is a construction contract for our 2023 Preventative Maintenance Slurry Project. This is a yearly program that comes before you to do that preventative maintenance treatments to our city-owned streets. With this project, we will we will treat over 1.9 million square foot of roadway surface. With these type of projects, it's not specific to one neighborhood. They are spread throughout our city. So I apologize for the larger map, but you will see the city boundaries in this dashed black line. And some of the neighborhoods included with this project are down here, what we're calling the William Morby area. Again, they're just named for streets within those areas. And this is between McCarran and Sparks Boulevard. Up here in the Goodwin area off of Los Altos. We have an area up here closer to Sparks Boulevard as it approaches Pyramid and the Sweetbriar area, the Silver Coyote area. If you'll follow my cursor, this is Vista Boulevard, and you see we have 3 areas just north of Vista and the Angel Orchards area, Cinder Village area, and the Hubble area. With this project, we received 3 bids, and Sierra Nevada Construction was the low bid at $611,007. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the council? Okay, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion then. Mr. Dare.
I move to approve a construction contract, AC 5952, with Sierra Nevada Construction in the amount of $611,007 for the 2023 preventative maintenance slurry project, bid number 22/23-0030, PWP-WA-2023-217.
Ms. Spivey.
I'll second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Amber. 9.5, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the purchase of 7 vehicles from Fallon Ford Toyota as part of the Fleet Replacement Program and Capital Improvement Program for fiscal year 2023, not to exceed the amount of $350,000, utilizing State Contract 99 NV21-8814.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mayor.
Anderson.
Mark Anderson, Public Works Manager, here to ask that you grant us budget authority to spend up to $350,000 to purchase 7 vehicles. 6 vehicles for our police department, our replacement, and 1 code enforcement vehicle. As you guys are aware, supply chain issues have really impacted the auto industry, and vehicles are just not available. The city of Sparks is continually missing out on vehicles because of our purchase process, and that's why I'm before you asking for the authority to purchase vehicles as they become available. All vehicles would be purchased off the state contract and would not exceed the budgeted amount. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions from the council? Okay, and that is really weird, the way the system is working these days, that there'll be a car ready today and next week it's gone. It's pretty crazy. Okay, with that, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott.
I move to approve the purchase of 7 vehicles from Fallon Ford Toyota as part of the Fleet Replacement Program and Capital Improvement Program for fiscal year 2023, not to exceed the amount of $350,000, utilizing state contract NN SWC-NV21-8814.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Mark. You got one more. Consideration, discussion, possible approval of the purchase 13 vehicles from Champion Chevrolet in the amount not to exceed $792,500 as part of the Fleet Replacement Program and Capital Improvement Program for fiscal year 23, utilizing state contract 99 SWC-NV21-8903.
Again, Mark Anderson, Public Works Manager. This item is substantially the same as the last item, just a different vendor, Champion Chevrolet, for 13 vehicles, 5 for our fire department, 8 for our community services department. 5 of the vehicles are replacement, 8 are new needs. Again, this would be asking for budget authority to spend up to our budgeted amount and purchasing through the state contract. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the council? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Dare.
I move to approve the purchase of 13 vehicles from Champion Chevrolet in the amount not to exceed $792,500 as part of the Fleet Replacement Program and Capital Improvement Program for fiscal year 2023, utilizing state contract 99 SWC NV 21-8903.
Mr. Anderson.
Second the motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. 9.7, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a purchase of 6 vehicles from Corwin Ford in an amount not to exceed $335,550 as part of the Fleet Replacement Program and Capital Improvement Program for fiscal year 23, utilizing state contract 99 SWC-NV21-8811. Mr. Anderson.
Again, Mark Anderson, Public Works Manager. Thank you, Mayor. This one's substantially the same, different vendor, which was Corwin Ford for 6 vehicles for our Community Services Department. 5 are replacement vehicles. 1 is a new need for our construction manager in an amount not to exceed $335,550. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the council? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Anderson.
Move to approve the purchase of 6 vehicles from Corwin Ford in an amount not to exceed $335,550 $335,550 as a part of the Fleet Replacement Program and Capital Improvement Program for fiscal year 2023, utilizing state contract 99 SWC-NV21-8811.
Mr. Abbott.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
9.8, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, COVID-funded agreement AC-5953 between the City of Sparks and Catholic Charities of Northern Nevada in an amount not to exceed $179,840 to fund their employment and business assistance program. Amy Jones.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson and members of council. For the record, my name is Amy Jones, Housing Specialist. And Mayor, I would like to request items 9.8 and 9.9 be heard together.
Okay, we'll vote separately though, but yes, please.
Thank you. I am before you today requesting approval on 2 grant program agreements for the Community Development Block Grant Employment Activity utilizing CDBG coronavirus or COVID funds. In the CDBG fiscal year 22-23 annual action plan and the CDBG fiscal year 23-24 proposed annual action plan, Council approved to allocate $360,000 toward employment assistance programs for businesses and residents that have been impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. City staff solicited bids requesting submissions from nonprofit organizations providing resources to low to moderate income City of Sparks residents in obtaining permanent employment and support to City of Sparks businesses whose workforce has been reduced due to the coronavirus pandemic. The RFP required that the submissions include 2 components. The first, provide low to moderate income residents with tools and resources towards self-sufficiency, job training, and the opportunity of permanent employment. And the second, assist businesses to retain positions by providing labor with the prospect of permanently increasing their workforce. The city did receive 2 submissions from Opportunity Alliance, Nevada, and Catholic Charities of Northern Nevada. Opportunity Alliance is a nonprofit whose mission is to support low to moderate income individuals in obtaining self-sufficiency through financial literacy, workforce development, and job training. Opportunity Alliance proposes to partner with Join to implement the Employ Sparks program. Join is a nonprofit that assists individuals with access to education, job training, and job placement in urban and rural communities throughout the state of Nevada. Catholic Charities of Northern Nevada is a nonprofit that assists residents of Washoe County through their food pantry, dining room, housing programs, resource hubs, workforce development, and wraparound supportive services. After reviewing both applications, staff is recommending to split the funding and fund both programs equally at $179,840 each. Staff consulted with each of the applicants, and they confirmed that they would be able to proceed with their respective programs at the reduced funding. The Employ Sparks program is a 12-week program supporting local businesses and up to 12 low to moderate income residents impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. The Employ Sparks program consists of participation in the Getting Ahead program facilitated by Opportunity Alliance staff. Residents will participate in 16 sessions designed to assist residents in identifying resources towards self-sufficiency and assessing the individual's finances, transportation, childcare, employment, and housing. Participants will attend 2 meetings with a financial navigator to prepare personalized saving and spending plan, and including budgeting and debt reduction. Join will conduct workforce development workshops, including career exploration assessments through testing, working resume interview skills and mock interviews, professionalism and customer service, and leadership and communication. Concurrently, Join will work directly with both the participants and the businesses. Participants will be referred to partnering businesses where they will receive paid on-the-job training, working up to 32 hours per week for 8 weeks. At the conclusion of the 8-week job training program, participants may have the opportunity to be hired as a permanent full-time employment, and 100% of the wages will be paid through the Employ Sparks program during that 8-week training program. Catholic Charities of Northern Nevada has partnered with the University of Nevada, Reno's College of Business to assist with their workforce development training. Participants will receive up 20 hours of soft skill training, including interpersonal skills, communication, problem solving, organization, collaboration, time management, ethics, professional attire, credit solutions, resume building, and interview coaching. Residents will be placed with local City of Sparks businesses whose workforce has been impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. Residents will receive on-the-job training with the prospect of permanent employment, providing stability for both the resident and the businesses. Catholic Charities Northern Nevada case managers will work directly with the residents, providing mentorship and coaching, and case managers will provide ongoing support to the business owners addressing any personnel concerns. Participants may also receive short-term rental assistance payments of up to $500 per month for up to 3 months, paid directly to their landlord, to allow those participants to focus on successfully completing the program. And Catholic Charities proposes to assist up to 45 residents. I want to provide a comparison of the two programs, which you can see are very similar. So residents will participate in paid on-the-job training, and both programs provide intensive workforce development training. Residents will participate in similar programs that promote self-sufficiency. However, Catholic Charities does provide the additional support to the residents of the 3 months of rental assistance, which Opportunity Alliance does not. Both programs provide local businesses with participants with the prospect of permanent employment, providing stability for both the owners and residents. However, Opportunity Alliance will pay for the wages 100% during that 8-week on-the-job training. So the main difference between these two programs is Opportunity Alliance provides that additional support to the local businesses through the paid wages, and Catholic Charities provides additional support to the residents through the rental assistance. And both programs are providing needed resources to the City of Sparks residents and businesses. So in summary, the city will utilize our CDBG COVID funds. The program cost is total $360,000, and staff is proposing to fund both programs equally at $179,840 each. Both agencies will be required to provide quarterly reporting of program objectives and demographics. Both programs meet the national objective of benefiting low to moderate income households earning less than 80% of the area median income, and the statutory objectives of public service and economic development. Staff is recommending the 2 separate motions listed on the screen to fund both programs. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Dare.
I want to say thank you for the work on this. This is right up the alley of some of the things we've talked about over the years. One, I just want to confirm that does someone have to live in Sparks and be a business in Sparks both?
Correct.
Okay, so that's good to know. And then I did want to just say one of the goals, at least just for me, is that we continue to find ways to help people stay afloat in this time, where we can help make sure that they are not the next conversation of someone who's losing their home. So this right in that area. And then if there's a graduation or anything that they do, I am pretty aware of some of these, and I've been a part of them. Sometimes they'll have a dinner at the end. I'd love to know about it. I'm sure we like to go to things and cheer people on. If that is appropriate, obviously some things are not appropriate, but if it's appropriate, please let us know. We'd like to be there. Or I'd like to be there.
Anyone else? Mr. Anderson?
I want to say ditto. Thank you for working on this and helping to put it together. I really like the idea of being able to help individuals as well as the businesses here in Sparks. And I just want to say kudos on the 10 data points that we're going to be able to actually track and see the performance of the programs and make sure that they're actually doing what we're intending to do. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Ms. Vanderwell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to say thank you again, to echo everybody else, and I want to thank all the organizations for working together to find a solution and working collaboratively. I appreciate that. And then I'd also like to do a disclosure, of course, before the next agenda item. I am the chair of Opportunity Alliance Nevada, so I will be recusing myself from that vote.
Ms. Bybee?
Thank you, Amy. What I love is that this is something that benefits residents individually, and the training, the skills we can give them to really, move forward in employment, maintain housing, and support for their families. So for the individuals, I love that, but I also like for the businesses, because we're in a time where workforce challenges have been bigger than ever. To really find people who can work, it's going to help our businesses too. So I think overall it's a win-win. I think also all of the training and the opportunities between both programs of what they will be, they will actually benefit the individual, but the businesses, because you're going to get better skills, better, hopefully more successful employees. And I just think it's a win-win. And I wish we had even more to give to both, but I think it's a great start in the direction of what we've been looking for. Thank you.
Mr. Abbott?
Sir, so if anyone is listening that's a business or an individual, how would they start? Would they reach out to you or directly to?
They're going to reach out to one of the two agencies that we will be partnering with upon council's approval. So we will get information on our website as to how to connect with those agencies.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, I'm looking for a motion on 9.8 first. Ms. Vanderwell?
I move to approve the grant program agreement AC-5953, utilizing Community Development Block Grant COVID funds for provisions of job training and assistance to City of Sparks residents and business that have been impacted by the coronavirus pandemic between the City of Sparks and Catholic Charities of Northern Nevada in an amount not to exceed $179,840 to fund their employment and business assistance program.
Mr. Dare?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, now we're looking for a motion on 9.9.
Mr. Mayor, if you'll just read that for us, and then you can call for the motion.
Want me to read it? I've already moved to the next page. Consideration, discussion, possible approval of a Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, COVID-funded agreement AC 5954 between the City of Sparks and Opportunity Alliance Nevada in an amount not to exceed $179,840 to fund the Employ Sparks program. Ms. Bybee?
I move to approve the grant program amendment AC 5954, utilizing Community Development Block Grant COVID funds for provisions of job training and assistance to City of Sparks residents and businesses that have been impacted by the coronavirus pandemic between the City of Sparks and Opportunity Alliance Nevada in an amount not to exceed $179,840 to fund the Employ Sparks program.
Okay, Mr. Anderson?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries 4-1 with one abstention of Ms. Vanderwell. Okay, thanks, Amy. 9.10, consideration, discussion, possible approval of professional services contract AC 5949 with ETC Institute to perform community survey with a cost of $36,390, RFP number 22/23-031. Ms. McCormick?
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson and members of the City Council. For the record, I'm Allison McCormick, your Assistant City Manager for Management Services. And before you today, excited to seek your approval of a contract with ETC Institute to conduct a community survey in the City of Sparks. In July of 2022, the then newly established Equity and Inclusion Advisory Board identified a comprehensive community survey as a top priority for the board. Ultimately, the city issued a request for proposals, or RFP, for a consultant to develop, distribute, and analyze the results of a community survey. We collected responses in March of 2023, and 6 companies responded to the RFP. After reviewing all of those proposals, city staff and the Equity and Inclusion Advisory Board recommend contracting with ETC Institute. ETC Institute has more than 40 years of experience in conducting community surveys. That wealth of experience gives them benchmarking data so that we can compare ourselves to how other communities' members responded. They have also worked with the City of Henderson since 2010 and come highly recommended by City of Henderson staff. Most importantly, for purposes of the Equity and Inclusion Advisory Board, ETC Institute came with concrete strategies for reaching underserved populations in the city, including an oversampling option to ensure that we get statistically valid data from those demographic minority groups. The cost of the contract is $36,390, and staff is pleased to recommend approval. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the council? Mr. Dare.
Yes, I just wanted to say good job, actually. It's not a question. I just think it's important that we do this, and I'm very interested in hearing back the feedback, and very interested in what kind of questions you guys come up with as well, but that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, looking for a motion then. Mr. Dare.
I move to approve the professional services contract, AC 5949, with ETC Institute to perform a community survey with a cost of $36,390, RFP number 22/23-031, period.
Vanderwell.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. 9.11, consideration, discussion, and possible approval to purchase various commercial insurance policies to protect the city's financial interests with an approximate premiums of $1,454,156 for the next policy periods, and to authorize the city manager to execute policy documents. Ms. McCormick.
Thank you, Mayor Lawson and City Council. Again, for the record, I'm Allison McCormick, your Assistant City Manager. With me is Brandon Lewis from USI Insurance Services, our insurance broker, who has been very essential in this process. With your leave, I'll present items 9.11 and 9.12 together. Those are with regards to the city's insurance policies and then Tumwharf's specific policies. We are seeking approval of the purchase of various commercial insurance policies and authorization for the city manager to execute the agreements for those policies. The city maintains several commercial insurance policies to protect its financial interests. Many of those policies apply to the city as a whole, and a couple of policies apply specifically to Tumwharf. The main policy types that the city carries are liability, pollution, which is specific to Tumwharf, property, which is citywide with the exclusion of Tumwharf, and a property policy that is specific to Tumwharf because it is a big, complicated facility. The city received one quote for liability insurance from Safety National. That quote was for a $545,132 premium. That is a 16% increase in fiscal year 2024. I do want to point out that USI Insurance Services accepted a reduced fee for their brokerage services to get that premium cost down to help the city out. So thank you. That policy provides for a $500,000 self-insured retention, essentially the city's deductible, and then a $5 million policy limit. Moving on to the pollution policy, the city received 3 quotes and is recommending proceeding with Markel Corporation. This pollution policy is a 3-year policy, so it covers fiscal year 24, 25, and 26. The premium that was quoted by Markel Corporation is $73,087, which is a 30% increase over the prior policy period. But that policy offers improved coverage for product pollution, so when Tumorf sells effluent, business interruptions, and emergency response. So staff does believe that that extra expense is warranted. Moving on to the property policies, as I mentioned before, the city and Tumorf both have separate property insurance policies. We received 2 quotes for each of those separate policies. The first is from Alliant Property Insurance Program, or APEP. That is our current carrier. And the second is from the Nevada Public Agency Insurance Pool, which I'll refer to as NPAPE or the pool. As I mentioned, APIP is our current carrier for both the city and Tumorf. In general, they offered higher and more variable deductibles. Their policy does, however, include cyber coverage. They also offer a full replacement cost for city vehicles, and they offer dedicated policy limits, meaning that the city generally does not share policy limits with other entities in the case of a major disaster. NPAPE, or the pool, would be a new carrier to the city. They've been around for a long time, but the city has not traditionally used them. Deductibles under the pool are typically $10,000, so lower and more predictable than with APIP. Cyber coverage is sold separately. We've received 1 quote in the ballpark of $55,000 for that cyber policy and are awaiting others. In general, they offer market value for vehicles, so not the replacement cost of a new vehicle. For specialty vehicles like your fire engines, they do have a schedule that's negotiated and agreed upon for those costs. And then the biggest potential risk with the pool is that they do have shared policy limits for earthquake and flood disasters. Those shared policy limits are $150 million. So the risk there is that the city could experience a major earthquake, for example, and other members in the pool would be entitled to proportional shares of those $150 million policy limits, meaning that the city might not be made whole before that limit is exhausted. The property premiums, citywide, APIP quoted $669,534, which would be a 15.2% increase over the prior policy year. NPAPE quoted $434,477, and once you add that cyber policy of about $55,000 into the city's costs, we would be looking at a savings of 15.8% over the prior year. For Tumorf, APIP quoted $675,932, or a 22.8% increase. And a little update, this is different from what's on your slide. NPAPE quoted $665,615, so slightly under APIP's quote. So as to the property policies, this essentially boils down to a choice between APIP that charges that higher premium, but with dedicated policy limits, or the pool, which offers substantial savings, but that risk of shared policy limits in the event of a major disaster in the region. So 2 separate motions are required. There are 2 options on your screen for the city's policies. This first one covers if the council chooses to go with APIP, our current carrier, at that higher cost, but with those dedicated policy limits. The second motion there is if the council chooses to go with NPAPE or the pool with substantial savings for the city's property policy. And then separate motions are required for Tumorf, and I can get there when you're ready for that. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Mr. Lewis is also available for any questions if his extra expertise is needed.
So I have a quick question. Where's the pool? Where is the area shared? How big of an area are we talking? We're talking the MSA, which includes Sacramento, or we're just talking Truckee Meadows?
Mayor Lawson, members of the council and staff, thank you for the chance to be here. Brandon Lewis for the record with USI Insurance Services. This is the Nevada Public Agency Insurance Pool, so it's only within the state of Nevada membership. It's limited in that regard. There's about 120 members throughout the state, mostly rural. There are not a lot of members in our area for Washoe County. You've got RTC currently, but we're not insuring the buses there, so there's not a lot of property values. So you're not sharing with anybody outside of Nevada. Those limits have been increased over the years. They do go through catastrophe modeling to see, based on the Nevada entities that they insure, what limit do they need? So 10 years ago, that limit may have been 50 million, but over time, as values increase and as they have new members come in, they've bumped that up to 75, 100, and 150. So a little longer than you asked for, but it's not shared with anyone outside Nevada.
Then, Neil, what did we, for the 97 flood, what was the cost of that? I thought it approached a billion.
I am sorry, Mayor Lawson, I don't have a
Just
firm
curious.
number in my head.
I don't
as to
either,
what the
but
cost was.
it seemed to me it was pretty high. Okay, Mr. Dare.
So I do have a question on this. So what do we do if, and maybe this is the city manager or anybody, so what if we went with the one that does not cover us and make us whole? What do we do if we do not have the finances to cover us and make us whole? Do we go find a loan as quick as we can? Do we just pull out of some rainy day fund and hope we're okay? Depending on if we could cover that. It seems to me that not making us whole doesn't add up to me.
It would depend on the scale of the disaster. It's highly likely that in a disaster of that scale, that would exhaust those shared limits, that we would have state emergency aid, likely federal emergency aid. So that's the most immediate thing that we would be doing, is looking to state and federal agencies for help.
Thank you.
Anderson.
Add to that.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Brandon.
Thank you. I just wanted to very briefly introduce, we have Stephen Romero and Alan Call with the pool. Since they're a local entity, they wanted to be here today. They're here in support of their motion, of course, and also to help with any questions if needed. So if on any questions like that, they can address, specific questions regarding the earthquake limit, for example, and the shared exposure.
Mr. Anderson.
And actually using that example, that's what I wanted some clarity on. So say, for example, we have a catastrophic event like an earthquake. As of today, the only ones we would be sharing the pool with is RTC and City of Sparks. It would be the two of those, is that?
For our area here,
If it were
yes.
this area.
It would essentially just be RTC. You have some very small GIDs like Canyon General GID, very small, hundreds of thousands of values. So in this area, you wouldn't be sharing it with that much. They do have Carson City, Carson Schools, and Douglas Schools. So if you think about the broader earthquake corridor down the row, that's something they have considered. And I know when they do their modeling and look at, what's the probable maximum loss for our members. The pool is a member-owned and member-driven organization, so it's every year the members coming together on executive boards and committees to make these decisions for their best interest. But that's, ultimately, in this valley, none of the larger entities are in the pool.
And once again, we're talking, in this example, it'd be 150 million, is that?
Correct, it'd be 150 million. And in terms of the pool, you'll note on some of the handouts I think that we have, the pool has just a deductible across the board. So the deductible that was quoted was $10,000. Currently, with the APIP program, the city and Tumwharf have a percentage deductible for earthquake, where they would look at 2% of the values of each building at the time of loss. So that could be, multi-millions of dollars of deductible. Although the pool has the 150 million shared limit, they also offer, really a quicker entrance point where you would get coverage starting at $10,000.
Ms. Spivey.
So just to be clear, obviously, we're looking at the premium difference between the two. And then on the second one, with the shared limits, are those just for natural disasters, that those shared limits, that kind of, if you're looking at pros and cons, so pros obviously a lower limit, premiums or lower premiums that we would know out of our budget, we'd be able to save on the premiums. Obviously, we don't know when a disaster is going to happen, but is it just natural disasters that we would be sharing those shared premium costs or limits on?
Those policy limits are specific to earthquakes and floods.
Those are the only shared limits with the pool.
Okay.
Other types of losses, fire, a lot of range of other types of losses, including vehicle physical damage, those are your own limit. The pool provides up to 300 million per occurrence for other types of losses, and that's not shared.
Okay. And I guess as I think about that, as we've had ongoing rain, it's harder as we look at floods today, that obviously, and we've seen our share of floods, but really looking at, it's a risk on one, but not, I guess I'm just looking at today, what is it going to cost us? And then if there were limits and we're sharing them, how many we're sharing them with, what the scope of the disaster would be is an unknown that we don't, that we have to kind of, I don't know that it's gambling on, but it's not a set amount that we would know for sure. This is what it would cost us and the difference of why one would be more beneficial than the other. The premium's obviously a difference with the two. So, okay, thank you. You answered my questions.
We have one more comment from Brandon behind you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the record, Alan Kalt, I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Pool Pact. One of the things that we've never reached that limit of 150 million. And if we had, FEMA would come in, and FEMA typically would have make up that difference. So in the floods in 97, and the floods that we've had, our losses, our insured losses that were paid out were well under that 150 aggregate. But had it exceeded that, okay, you could have went to FEMA. Okay, during those, we had two major floods. Before coming to Pool Pact, I was with Churchill County and worked with FEMA on that. And that's one of the first things that they asked us when they came in, what are your policy limits? Okay, we showed them what the policy limits were, and they said that they would cover, above that on a pro rata share, 75%. Federal government or the state of Nevada typically picks up 12.5%. And we would be responsible at the entity level of 12.5 above what that aggregate limit of 150 million. So, knock on wood, we'll never exceed that. As Brandon has said, Pool Pact over the years has done modeling, and we've worked that way up, okay, to make sure that we have plenty of coverage. But in the unlikely event, then FEMA, the federal government, historically has stepped in and provide, flood assistance. And I'm sure the city of Sparks has received assistance from FEMA on floods in the past.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Abbott.
I just had a quick question for you, Brandon. On the voting on the members, if we were to become a member, we'd have a voting say or with Pool Pact, yeah.
Yes, with the
Okay.
pool,
Yeah.
the city would become a member of the pool. The pool is actually a governmental agency in Nevada, so they have an interlocal agreement that we've shared with Assistant City
Okay.
Manager McCormick. So yeah, you would become a member of there, and Stephen or Alan could add more if we needed to on the the voting.
Just wanted to
and
make sure we had
membership
representation
process.
at the table. So, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dare.
Yeah, so two quick questions. What was just mentioned regarding FEMA, is that a handshake thing or is that written writing? Like we can count on that?
That's a federal, FEMA's a federal program.
Come up here and talk for me, please.
I mean, I say that, the way you worded it, and I only say that, and it's good to see you. The way you worded it sounded like, hey, they said this and they're gonna hopefully do it. I mean, is this something we could officially count on? Like we know that's gonna be there, or
So when
it's a maybe?
the local government files a declaration, the governor's office files a declaration, at that point, they're working with the congressional delegation at the federal level to provide FEMA funding, okay? And, it's a federal program.
Understood.
That's built in. And, the same protection that California gets, Nevada gets, the Hawaii, Idaho, et cetera. So it is a federal national program. And, you see in the press when they have federal declared disasters where FEMA comes in, provides that support, they rebuild communities, that type of thing. I mean, the ones most likely that you read a lot about is the hurricanes, you know.
I think the hardest thing for us with FEMA is we tend to get paid 5 years later, but that's just part of.
That's pretty quick sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. But the other thing that I do have, how many people can jump in the pool? For example, I know this insurance thing's a big thing. So if all of a sudden Reno and the county decides to jump in, now all of a sudden what we thought was there, we can't. I mean, can anybody jump in the pool?
It's an application process, just like you folks have went through, you know, through typically an RFP, and Brandon can, you know, kind of go over that. But what would happen is if larger entities come in and our property values increase significantly, we would look to the markets to increase that 150 aggregate to an amount higher than that.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? I'm not gonna say it's flooding, but I saw a guy in a robe building an ark. So, who knows? Ms. Vanderwell, do you have another question?
And it's for the pool. When was the last time you guys had a large payout or something that got maybe close to the 150 million?
For the record, Stephen Romero. I am the Members Relations Manager and also the broker for the reinsurance for the pool. Just going on back to the last time we've had a major earthquake or flood would have been the Wells earthquake. So that was 2006, if I remember correctly. And that one was 6.5 million. It involved 3 of our members. So it involved City of Wells, it involved Elko County, and it involved Elko County School District. So that's a great example of how we ended up having 3 members that were involved in one earthquake, and we only had 6.5 million worth of losses. One other thing I'd like to bring up, you know, it's been discussed here, which is that, you know, you become an owner when you come into the pool. So it is your pool. We are a non-for-profit, where APIP is for-profit. So just want to point that out as well.
Okay, any other questions? Anything else? Anything to add, Allison?
Just to close, if it is the council's desire to go with NPAPE or the pool, staff will bring an interlocal agreement to that effect before you at your next meeting.
Okay. All right, with that, I'm looking for a motion. Start the Jeopardy music.
You have city manager.
Oh,
If,
I'm sorry?
Procedurally, if you'll give us a heads up on which way you're going to move so that we can get the right motion up on the screen.
You're gonna have to find out when we
Yes.
do a motion.
Okay, so there's going to be a pause once we've identified who's going to
Thank
make the
you.
motion.
All right. Ms. Bybee,
I move to approve purchasing various commercial insurance policies to protect the city's financial interests with estimated premiums of $1,073,939 from the Nevada Public Agency Insurance Pool for the next policy periods, and to authorize the city manager to execute agreements for those policies.
Ms. Vanderwell.
I'll second.
Okay. You're that fast, Julie? Good for you. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. 9.12, consideration, discussion, and possible approval to purchase various commercial insurance policies to protect the financial interests of the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility with an estimated premiums of $885,911 for the next policy periods, and authorize the city manager to execute agreements for those policies. Allison.
Thank you, Mayor Lawson. Again, for the record, Allison McCormick, your Assistant City Manager. We covered this in my presentation on the last item. So if there are no other questions or discussion, I'd be asking for a motion.
Questions? If there aren't any, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Dare.
I move to approve purchasing various commercial insurance policies to protect the financial interests of the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility with estimated premiums of $752,101, including property coverage from Nevada Public Agency Insurance Pool for the next policy periods, and authorize city manager to execute agreements for those policies.
Mr. Anderson,
I'll second the motion.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. 9.13, consideration, discussion of possible approval to purchase stop-loss insurance from Voya Financial for the city's self-funded group health plan for fiscal year 2024 in the amount of $621,019, and authorize the city manager to execute policy documents. Ms. Valdez.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. Jill Valdez, Human Resources Director for the record. Before you is stop-loss insurance for the group health self-funded plan that the city has. Like the other insurance you've just heard, this is to protect the city from catastrophic losses. This year, LP Insurance Services went out on behalf of the city. They sought bids from 14 companies. 10 of those did not bid. 4 bids came in. Of those, only 1 bid was competitive, which was the current provider, Voya. Now, Voya did offer several different options depending upon the deductible that the city would like. In order to maintain the current deductible of $325,000 per event, the cost is 10% greater. The city did budget for that increase, so that increase is an anticipated and budgeted expense. Alternatively, the city could pay less to go with a different deductible, either $350,000 or $375,000. The disadvantage of that is that once we lose our deductible of $325,000, we're not coming back to that. So the recommendation from the broker and from our financial team is that at a cost of 10% increase, which was anticipated, that the city choose option 1, which would be to maintain that deductible, that lower deductible, pay the 10% increase. All 3 of those options do have one lasered claim, meaning that a claim that the city must pay instead of the insurance company. In the past, we have had up to 4 lasered claims in a policy year. We're down to 1, and the amount was in the multi-millions, and now we're down to $1.2 million for 1 claim that is lasered out. There is no difference between the 3 options that Voya presented on that front. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And the recommended motion from staff, as said, is to maintain the current deductible with the 10% increase.
Okay, question from the council, Ms. Vanderwell.
Yes, Ms. Valdez, can you explain what is a laser claim?
Yes. Lasering means that the city has a known exposure. So the first premium year when someone on the plan has a higher than expected cost, the stop loss generally covers that. But once something, a major claim or a major cost is known, often the stop loss will laser or remove that from their payment in order to provide insurance. So the city would be responsible for paying up to $1.2 million on that lasered claim. Now, if the claim goes beyond $1.2 million, then that would revert back to the stop loss. But the city would be expected to pay up to $1.2 million in that policy year.
Okay, and just follow up. So this is after the deductible?
So the $1.2 million lasered claim is basically taken out of the deductible.
Thank you.
Mr. Dare.
How many individual lasered claims can they have? So is that every time, or is it 1.2 million overall? Once we hit that 1.2 million, they can't laser anymore, or they can still laser as we go?
So when I'm saying claim, what I mean by that is that there is one situation that is known where it's anticipated that there would be approximately $1.2 million in expenditures for one individual's medical situation. So there may be many claims, meaning they may go to the doctor multiple times, but when that individual goes and spends money for that particular medical condition, the city would be responsible for up to $1.2 million. If there's additional expenditure over $1.2 million, then it reverts back to the stop loss and they would be responsible for costs over that amount.
I understand that. My question has to do, what if there's 10 different people having individual claims? So could we be at $10 million? Or does it, or do we stop at the 1.2 because we reached an amount?
Okay, I understand that. So this particular policy year, we only have one lasered claim for the policy year, meaning one individual's medical condition. It is possible that within this policy year that there are 10 claims that, or individuals who arise with very expensive medical conditions. They would not be lasered out this policy year.
Thank you.
It is likely that when we would seek insurance the following year, that we might see those on the lasered claims list, but not for this policy year.
Understood.
Okay, Ms. Spivey.
So how do they determine, is it a certain medical condition? Is it the amount of medical bills coming in for an individual? When and how does the insurance decide they're going to laser a claim? Does it reach a certain amount, or is it the condition and care that triggers that?
Each year, our broker goes out and provides some claims data to potential bidders, and they evaluate that. Most likely, they are looking at the medical condition to see how likely it is to continue into future years. So if it's something that we would have expected to be finished last policy year, then you wouldn't expect that to be lasered out. So they're looking at conditions that are ongoing and likely to bridge multiple policy years, and that are likely to be quite expensive, more than the deductible amount.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Anderson.
So out of the 4 respondents to our request for proposal, Voya was chosen as the best option. But I'm going back to this laser policy amendments, or whatever you call it, that they all are going to do this. So in other words, our policy is not 621,000, it's 1.2 million plus the 621,000. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yes. Assuming that the individual spends $1.2 million in the policy year, which is quite possible, then yes, the total out-of-pocket liability for the city is the premium plus that lasered amount.
And do they all have these in their policies?
I wish I had a better answer for that, but the answer is yes. This is the standard practice among insurers. When there is a known risk like this that is going to be substantially more expensive, it would not be in their financial interest to offer a premium of $600,000 when they know that they would be expending over $1 million just on the single claim.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, with that, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott.
I move to approve the purchase of stop-loss insurance from Voya Financial for the city's self-funded group health plan for fiscal year 2024 in the amount of $621,019, and authorize the city manager to execute the policy documents.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Consideration, discussion, and possible acceptance of the report of Human Resources Department's plan for employee exit interviews. Jill.
Mayor and City Council, Jill Valdez, Human Resources Director for the record again. Council Member Anderson asked for a report from Human Resources on a plan to conduct more proactive exit interviews soliciting information from those leaving the city about reasons that they may be exiting. And I'm happy to report that in working with our software vendor, we do have the current capability to add this without an additional cost to the city. We're working with our software vendor to incorporate that into the product and look to launch it within the next 1 to 2 months. The product available to us is a standard survey that many other public entities like ours use. It does ask a little more detail for all individuals leaving. It is still voluntary. An individual could choose not to fill out the survey, so in that way it is voluntary, but it is more proactive in that the human resources seeking that. And on the back end, it allows us to look at that information over time and look for trends. With that, I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Mr. Anderson.
Jill, thank you very much for bringing this back. I appreciate you looking into it, and I'm thrilled to hear that it's not going to cost us any more money to do it. I'm definitely in favor of us moving forward on this because it's always good to know. Like you said, if you see a trend and you can pick that out, hopefully it doesn't continue to eat away at your organization if there's an issue. So thank you very much for bringing this forward. I appreciate it.
Mr. Abbott.
When you see a trend, would it be all right for you to share that with us? Is that doable? Are we able to see this information of the surveys? Or is it HR only?
Jill Valdez, for the record again. Certainly if there are trends, what we would need to do as human resources is look for ways to address those trends. And in that, certainly it's likely that anything that involves council or ideas that would involve money would come back to the council.
Okay.
And it's also possible that council could ask for information for that data.
Gotcha. Cool.
So certainly it's valuable to look at those trends, and then I think that what was asked of human resources is then to be more proactive.
Thank you.
Mr. Dare.
Is it possible to know, I'm interested in what questions are asked, and the reason why is, I know we tend to do an exit of something, but I don't believe it's asking the questions that we're really looking for, and I want to make sure that this action we're doing somehow hits, so I'd be interested in knowing what that looks like. I'm assuming they're great, but I don't want to assume, I'd like to know.
Right, so some of the questions would be things like, why are you choosing to exit for other employment? And if so, asking questions about that. Those who are retiring may or may not. We can't assume just because they're retiring that they're not looking for other employment. So basically it's designed for public entities and just getting to some bucket, some of the most common reasons that people may exit an organization so that we can run reports on that. Not as much free, the reportable section is on the choices that individuals would be able to answer that are uniform. The ability for people to leave their name if they want to be contacted further is an option for individuals, but it's not required. So
We're not really asking people why they're leaving. It's gonna be more a general idea. We still may not, part of it is we're always trying to evaluate of what we're doing. So I'd like to believe this exit interview would help give us some tells. And so my concern is I appreciate that it's free and that it comes with our thing, which is nice. However, if it's free and it doesn't do what we need, then that might not be good. So I don't know, that's just my concern.
Ms. Bybee.
So Joe, we're currently not doing any exit interviews, correct?
currently, we do have exit interviews, but their purpose is different. So the purpose of most of the exit interviews that we do has to do with ensuring that benefit choices are made and that benefits are explained. anybody leaving the city, may have some various payouts. For example, even if they've been with us a short time, they may have accrued annual leave. So there are choices that people make about their tax rate for that, if they want a different tax rate, all the way up to when you're retiring and under your contract, you may have sick leave conversion options, the right to stay on the city's health insurance. So there's a lot of time that is spent in these exit interviews. What we don't have is a formal and proactive way to gather information that can be reported on, and where we can look for trends to find out why people are leaving.
Well, and I think those are two very different things. What you're describing is administrative, so it's all the administrative paperwork and things that have to do with benefits, retirements, insurance, which is a whole different bucket for me compared to what I think Councilman Anderson was asking for, where we're really dialing in on why people are leaving. Do they get a better job offer? Is their spouse getting a job somewhere else? Do they need to move for family? Are they frustrated or unhappy with their current position here? Is there an issue that they have that we can dial into to find out those trends? And I think that really, at least for me, is to really understand, because can be vastly different from leaving to go care for a family member to having an issue that we don't know about, and they walk out the door and we never hear, which I think is important for us to look at, are there trends? So not just one person, but are there trends that we're seeing that we need to, HR and management needs to look at resolving, because we don't want people to continue walking out the door if there's a trend that's driving them out the door, or is it personal reasons? I mean, I think those are differentiated when you're able to do a survey like this that specifically is, besides your exit interviews, this survey would give them an opportunity to be honest with us on why, and whatever those reasons are, I think identifying, so much percentage was people moving out of the area. I mean, and dial that all down, which I think, to Councilman Abbott's point, being able, and I don't want to know one employee's reasons, but if we know X percentage left because they were moving out of the area, X percentage for another reason, would be important for us to really look at and dial down into. So I would support that.
Yes, and to your question to the both of you, it does get into categories. So although we talk about wanting to know why somebody left, really, whether it's at Sparks or other public entities across the country, the categories are very similar and relatable. You just mentioned many of the categories, so by having categories as opposed to free form, we're actually able to report on those trends as something that we can put into the statistics that you're looking for.
So to that point, when they fill out all the survey that has the categories, is there an opportunity for comments for people to leave? So that would be individual, that might tell us a bigger story than checking a box on what category?
Currently, as it exists without being modified, I believe that they can simply leave their name if they want to provide more information. We would have to check with our software vendor to see if there is the ability to customize it beyond that to allow for, more free-form information.
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, and kind of going off that, I just want to make sure I understand, because I was thinking what you were saying about I could leave my name and phone number, but there's no place for me to comment that I want you to call me, or how does that work? Because if I leave it, I would assume that means to you, you're going to call. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that would then give me the opportunity to freeform and
Right.
share
To provide
the
more
specific.
information, and that can be incorporated into our exit interviews.
Perfect.
The in-person, sometimes in person, sometimes via Zoom interviews.
Right. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Rabbit.
Quick question on, why are we using our human resource software? Like, I feel like this can be Google Forms that we can make in half an hour. Why do we have to use this software? Why can't we use something else?
The benefit of using this software is that it houses it. It's a human resources information service software that houses many of the different aspects of human resources. So it makes sense to house it with all of our other benefit information, employee information, and it also has existing ways for us to trend and look at reports.
Okay, well, Google Forms can do all that.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Thank you. It's just a follow-up to Councilman Anderson. So if they leave their name and phone number and say, I'd like to further information, and not everybody likes to do that, but what would the turnaround time be to contacting those people that have left?
So this is a survey that would be sent to them prior to their departure. So in the weeks leading up to the departure, those are also the weeks when we are arranging their exit interview. So ideally that would allow us to, let them speak up more as a part of their exit interview, because that occurs prior to their exit. It's possible maybe we don't catch everybody, maybe somebody sends their survey in after their exit, and so there would be follow-up, but normally we are trying to close those cases out so that everything is done correctly for payroll. So we have it, we see it sort of as a case and keeping it together with the case.
Mr. Dare.
Yeah, just real quick, just follow up. I would be interested in finding a way that there could be a free form, that there's not an extra follow-up. And it's not just, I say this, it's not just a council, but even a manager or anybody would like to know. I think that information is win, 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 win. That's precious information. If I was leading anything, I want to know why someone's leaving. I'm not trying to beat around the bush. I'm not trying anything. I just want to know what's going on. And so sometimes I've seen what you're talking about, and it's very light. It doesn't give room for people to share maybe what's really going on, and I also don't want it for me, and whether I was leading or I'm in the position I'm in now where I get to help oversee things, I also don't want it strained necessarily just through an HR, what you believe they're saying. It's very nice to have what they said, and so that's just my ask, and I don't know if we can. It's part of our conversation, but it's definitely a request of mine.
Okay. I had one question. I thought someone would ask it and all those, but what's do they have a response percentage that they normally get on this exit interview?
I don't have data on that. I can certainly look at that.
I'm just curious, because if it's 5%, it really is a waste of time. But if it's 80% or 70%, it probably is worthwhile. So I think, to me, that's where my mind went to, is if we don't get any responses, it's really not doing us any good. Okay. All right, with that, Mr. Abbott, okay.
Is it possible for us maybe just to get a copy of it? I know we've had a lot of questions about what questions are on there and what aren't. Are we able to maybe just view it ourselves?
Yes, what I can do is I'll work with the vendor to find out what options there are, as you've all discussed.
Cool.
And then get a copy that I can forward on.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So with that, I'm looking for a motion. What? You're gonna have to change it?
All this is accepting the report.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's accept the report. Okay, so I'm still looking for a motion. Mr. Anderson.
I move to accept the report on Human Resources Department's plan for employee exit interviews.
Mr. Abbott. I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries.
I have one, I just want to clarify. So what we asked, I know we're going to accept this report, I understand what we're saying. However, is there a timeline that we can expect this to come back to us? I mean, I appreciate I don't want to do this and then 6 months later, we're like, oh yeah, so is there something like we can expect?
I would ask Jill to answer the question in terms of timeline, but you have staff's commitment that we're going to share with you the possibilities of what this survey might look like and share it with you and give you the opportunity to give us feedback. So to the timeline question, how, Jill, working with,
We are working with the vendor in the next 1 to 2 months to finalize this. So that means that we can return it at the latest 2 months, although I'd like to get that to you earlier before it's finalized and the first result or the first survey requests go out to employees.
Thank you. That's what I'm looking for.
All right. Now, everybody's voted. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Consideration discussion 9.15, consideration discussion of possible action regarding request for an independent investigation into survey results, leadership, employee relations, and any other items relating to the city manager. Ms. Valdez.
Mayor, council members, Jill Valdez, Human Resources Director for the record again. This item is brought forth by Councilwoman Vanderwell, requesting that the body consider an independent investigation. As you are looking at this item, what is before you is really a couple of choices. Number one, does the body support an independent investigation? If so, then in the motion, specificity is needed for the staff, myself, Human Resources Director, to be able to go and solicit a proposal from an independent investigator to bring back to council for your consideration and approval of the project and the cost. So I know all of you are business members. Think about this as if you were looking at the scope of a project in your area. What an investigator is going to ask is, what are you having me do with this investigation? What kinds of deliverables are you looking for? Basically parameters around what you're asking for so that they can appropriately give you an agreement for your consideration contract that meets your requirements. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, before we get too far into this, we were assuming that it's the pleasure of the council to do an investigation. Should we vote on that first?
You certainly may. What we've recommended as alternative motions is if you do not wish to, someone could make a motion not to have an investigation. But if someone makes a motion to have an investigation, that motion for an investigation, I would ask, is specific in the scope of work for that investigation.
Okay. Ms. Vanderwell.
And hopefully I can help with this, because I requested the agenda item to better understand the process of initiating an investigation into potentially toxic leadership, negative employee survey results, employee morale, gender bias, and whether the city manager is exercising the care, skill, and diligence of a reasonably prudent executive responsible for leading our city. I believe that I cannot stand by and do anything after I've been made aware of some potential issues by our current and former employees. So I believe the reason I'm requesting this investigation is warranted to cover an investigation period of when the city manager Kreutz was the community services director up to present. And I have asked for this so you can, what is the procedure in initiating this? Or have I initiated it by asking for the agenda item?
I believe you've initiated this conversation with the council for consideration of whether the council wants to move forward with an investigation.
Ms. Bybee.
I do support looking at an independent investigation. I think that gives a place where people can feel free to express good and bad, whatever their feelings are. And when it's independent, it also supports all of us and you and your department when we bring someone from outside to do that, that there is no bias within or, from management, from HR. So I think that process is warranted. I guess what I would ask, if we do an independent investigation, how would we have assurances that current or past employees, that there would not be retribution if those come out? Is it totally anonymous? And so when the data comes out on an investigation, it obviously would be protected as far as its anonymity for people that are giving us that feedback. I guess what assurances I would want to make sure if we do an outside investigation that that was protected so that people could speak out honestly, like I said, positive or negative.
Unfortunately, I don't think there are assurances of that because we do everything we can to try to be confidential in conducting investigations, whether it's human resources or an outside investigator. But when somebody comes forward and makes allegations or complaints, so to speak, ultimately, if those result in any sort of disciplinary action, they are potentially available through the process for discovery so that the person being accused has the ability to defend themselves. I also don't know if this is a report that's being produced for council, whether individuals would be able to request an unredacted version of that report. Some of that may be, more of a question for council, but generally when we meet with employees, we cannot, guarantee complete anonymity.
Wes, you want to weigh in on this?
I think there's probably a couple considerations. So I think Jill is right in the sense that if you're looking for complete anonymity, Councilwoman Bybee, I don't think that can be assured. Certainly, say if it went to litigation, for example, and you were through the civil litigation process, the folks going forward. Also, kind of from a due process standpoint, in regards to whatever the findings were of the report, if there was a determination to take some sort of action, and in this essence, it would be pursuant to the city manager's contract, right? There'd be due process rights with notice and opportunity to be heard, and looking at the allegations and those things. So I don't want to create a false expectation that an investigation would be something where there would be perfect anonymity. So that's just to be clear to answer your question with that. Now, certainly the consideration for the council is really one of something that you've kind of looked at in a previous agenda item in terms of a cause, a for cause or a not for cause sort of action. So I think to Jill's point about where does the council want to go with it? What's the direction? I think anything that we do here today, you're going to want to give specificity as to if you are wanting to initiate an investigation or not. Jill, I guess another question. Well, I'll leave it at that. But that's to answer your question. You can't say it's going to be completely anonymous.
Okay, Mr. Dare.
So, given where we found ourselves, I do have two thoughts. And one of them is, I don't get how we go back to community services because the contract that we are talking about has to do with him being a manager. And so that would be the one thing that, and the reason I would support this, and I just want to make kind of clear where I come from, is one is that there are council members with questions, and I think it's fair for them to have answers to the questions they have. I also think it's fair to have any employee have a chance to prove that what they did was good and right or whatever. And in the very end, we can't have a split council. I mean, you name it, all the different things. We don't want to be walking down the road and be kind of stumbling as a city. And so for me, for those reasons, I don't have a problem, but my concern is that it's very pointed to a job of city manager, because that's the job that we're talking about. I think it does have to do with relationships within our city. I think that is important of how that works and how that function. I am interested how we can get that information in the sense, because what you said, I mean, you're right, everything's convoluted in this setting because it's used for different purposes. But I would say, I'm not against the idea, and part of it, I think it would clear the air one way or another in a sense of making things where they lie, and then we can make whatever decision based on that. But I would say I am concerned again that it's just done for the work that has been done as a city manager.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Thank you, Councilman Dare. My reasoning for going back that far is because the city manager has been in a management position with the city of Sparks for over 25 years. That's my reasoning behind that. And then to piggyback on Councilwoman Bybee's, and I understand, the privacy and things like that. So on the third-party investigation, if we agree and everything else, if someone comes to HR, will they be dealing directly with that third-party investigator so that it is confined to there? And then also, and I apologize, I don't remember which one of us said it, or I think you did, I would prefer that those answers come back to, the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem to then, them talk about it, and then whether it's disseminated. But eventually, I would like all of the raw data. I don't want it filtered through anything. So whatever anybody says, I'd like to know that verbatim what they say. Okay, I think that's most important, I think, for all of us to be able to make sound decisions on it.
Go ahead.
In response to that, I'm still not clear what the specific ask is, but I will say this. If it's best practice in human resources at a city with a structure like this, if an employee or someone came forward with a complaint, the procedure would be to work with the human resources director and the mayor to produce an independent investigation. The investigation report is for the council, because the council is the oversight for the city manager. So that being said, what we're talking about here is, in normal times where the council isn't discussing this, if somebody came forward with a specific complaint, an individual, that's how that would be handled. I'm still not clear, although if there are individuals that want to speak with an investigator, that's normally the easiest way to initiate the investigation. If that's not the way that we're initiating the investigation, that scope is particularly important to me so that we can try to find somebody that, an investigator that would put in a proposal to describe how they would plan to do that work.
Ms. Bybee.
So I'm really confused now. So when you said if someone came in today, the current process, if they had a complaint to file, they come into HR and to you, and is the investigation, whether it's gender bias, sexual harassment, whatever the claim is, who does the investigating now? Is it within your department compared to what we're asking for outside investigation? Are we doing it internally within HR, I guess is my question.
Currently, if someone were to come directly to HR, or even the city attorney's office for that matter, with a complaint, it would already be an independent investigation. So the purpose of the human resources director working with the mayor is to obtain an independent investigator to perform that work. It wouldn't be appropriate for someone within human resources to conduct that investigation.
Sorry. So that doesn't fall within human resources and the job that you guys are doing already. I I always thought human resources dealt with and handled if there were complaints and issues that employees had, that it was all dealt with within human resources. I didn't realize that we actually have any investigations go outside right now.
So what we're talking about here is pretty unique in that if there were a complaint against the city manager, the best practices for human resources is not to have somebody within human resources investigate that. The best practice for a complaint against the city manager would be to use an independent investigator. That's not to say that human resources doesn't handle complaints. We do. It's just that if the top of the organization who reports to council, if there's a complaint there, best practices would be to work with the mayor for the logistics of obtaining an independent investigation for the council. But that's not to.
In the one case.
Right, but.
It's only
but
for the
human
city manager.
resources-
The rest of the staff does not come to me.
Okay, so that's something in the past that's been best practices that the city has done through the years, that if it was a complaint specific to the city manager, that's how it would have, should, and today would be handled on that case-by-case basis.
Yes, I'm not aware in my tenure of any complaints directed towards a city manager, so I can't really speak to whether it had been done that way in past. It would be distant past, but that is the best practice for a municipality such as ours.
So Councilwoman Bybee, so I think for a little bit of clarity, so for example, we do have outside investigators that do things. So if there's a potential policy violation, say it was an SPD or was a policy violation of the admin rules, there can be an outside investigator that would look into those allegations. If it's a complaint-driven system or it's an allegation that that there's a violation of a certain policy. I can think of a few off the top of my head from SPD and from other things that have happened within the city. The outside investigator can do that. I think routinely, Jill, and correct me if I'm wrong, if it's, sometimes supervisors will do kind of their own investigation, or they'll do a performance improvement plan, or then they'll take certain action on someone that can happen internally. And so the investigation or the pattern of behavior can be established either from the employee within the system, or if there's a policy violation or an allegation, an outside investigator can be hired to do the investigation. One thing that Jill said, just for the record, the city attorney's office doesn't receive complaints about that. That's an HR function. It would be driven back to the human resources. Certainly our office couldn't engage in an investigation or anything like that. But that's sort of things can come from internally, or there can be outside investigators. So I wouldn't say that this would be, I think based on just the posture of this and based on the position, right, the wisdom of an outside investigator, I think is what the council is moving toward or desires. Just for the record though, Jill, so the city council could do a number of things in this case, if I'm hearing you correct. They could give you the parameters with specificity, time, who to talk to, those things to initiate an investigation, or an investigation can be initiated based on a complaint. Is that correct? Is there any other way that an investigation can be initiated?
Generally, the most common way for an investigation to be initiated is that there is a complaint. It's normally complaint-driven. But in this case, the council is wanting to look into this. It's a little bit different from the majority of the investigations that we do at the city, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. That being said, that's why I'm looking for that specificity. When I speak with outside investigators, the first thing they're talking to me about is the scope. what are you trying to achieve? What deliverables do you want me to give you? You know, where would you like me to start? That kind of thing. Most of the time, it starts with the complainant. They get that complaint from the individual, and then it branches out from there. Usually, if you have a complaint, you investigate that individual's complaint or people's complaint. So that's most common. What you're talking about is a little broader, looking into leadership practices. That could potentially be very broad and difficult for an outside investigator to get their hands around when they're designing a proposal. You know, does that mean that you're interviewing 800 employees? You know, so that's where I am looking to the council when you're asking for something like this, to be as specific as possible, as if you were working on a construction proposal. You know, or if you ask somebody, you know, they're a realtor and you're asking, what kind of house would you like to buy? If you say a house, it's difficult to know how to handle that. So the specificity in designing a project, which really an outside investigation is a project, is important, so that the outside investigator would know, you know, what are you asking, you know, why are you asking, what do you want me to produce for you?
Mr. Abbott?
Have we had an independent investigator before that we've used in HR for anything?
Absolutely. We do a combination of investigations at the city. As Mr. Duncan said, there are some things that are disciplinary in nature, you know, violation of a department policy, and sometimes within the department, your supervisor looks into that. There are other times that things come to human resources, and human resources internally does investigations. And then on a case-by-case basis, depending on the circumstances, there are times that human resources uses outside investigators. So we routinely do work with outside investigators, which is why I have that experience in working with them, and them really asking me pointed questions to define the scope of work I'm asking for from them.
Thank you.
Ms. Vanderwell?
Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. Are our employees aware that they can come in and do a specific complaint with the city manager, since he is our only employee? And if so, at that time, how long would it take you from the time someone came in and made a complaint to get to an investigator to get everything started?
Well, employees do make complaints, you know, it's part of the human resources function. So I feel fairly confident that employees know that they can make complaints. Once we receive a complaint, then we work with an outside investigator. If it's somebody that we're already contracted with, it's, you know, a shorter period of time. If we're looking for somebody new that we haven't contracted with, there's a contract period, and then we are trying to get that person in for interviews with the investigator as quickly as possible, within a matter of days or weeks when possible. Now, where it goes from there often depends upon the complaint, how many witnesses there might be to the complaint, or other individuals that need to be spoken with. So investigations can take time, because it is really difficult without hearing the person's complaint to know where that investigation might go and how many people need to be interviewed. But initiating that complaint, it's important to do that as quickly as possible.
So I just have a follow-up to that, Mr. Mayor. So you had said earlier that if someone came in and had a complaint with the city manager, that you would discuss it with the mayor, and then you would get an outside investigator. Is that the process?
That is correct.
Okay, so I guess what I'm asking is, from the time someone does that, you notify the mayor, then what is the time frame?
Again, the goal is to try to get an independent investigator connected with our complainant within days or weeks if possible. Of course, that would depend on the contracting piece of it. But the goal is to do that pretty quickly.
Okay. Anyone else?
I have a thought. With that in place, and again, the one thing I do think is important is that if there's some tool that can be used that can bring all the information that everyone's looking for to a place where we can continue to see or make decisions and, all that kind of stuff is there, or if we already have an infrastructure in place, encouraging our staff to utilize that infrastructure that's in place kind of creates the same end result, it would seem. I mean, I think you're kind of going there, but I don't want to assume that's what I'm hearing. If that's the case, could we, again, I'm not against this, so I want to say that I'm not against it. At the same time, cost-wise, time-wise, clarity, if we could encourage all staff that if something is going on, that we utilize the infrastructure that's in place with the belief and the trust that it goes from you to the mayor to an investigation in that setting, that anybody who had fear or caution that somebody might have retribution or any of that would be gone because it's going directionally. Would our council be comfortable letting our infrastructure do what infrastructure does for a time and see if that brings the intended outcome? I mean, I'm asking the question, I'm not making a move, I'm really asking.
So, Mr. Anderson.
So Jill, if I come to you with a complaint about your boss, and how do I feel comfortable that you're going to move it on to the mayor and that it's going to be addressed?
There has to be some level of trust in human resources, that human resources would utilize an independent investigator and go with the, communication with the mayor. That would be the only ethical thing for human resources to do, is to work with the appropriate person to get an independent investigation into city manager, or you mentioned my boss, it could be, Allison McCormick, the assistant city manager, is my boss. Similar circumstances, that human resources is in a unique position where we do have to have outlets for individuals to get an independent investigation when human resources isn't the right entity to do that, where an independent investigation is necessary.
So if I come to you with a concern, is there any way that it's recorded or anything that I have other than I say, no, I talked to Jill, she didn't do anything about it? I mean, is that a possibility, or how is the process assured to move forward if there truly is a concern?
If someone had a complaint that it was not addressed, then they could certainly speak with the mayor. If it is, particularly if it's the city manager, if it is my boss, for example, then there's still a level above her, which would be the city manager, that is another outlet for ensuring that that's being handled.
Thank you, and I appreciate your job, because I truly refer to human resources as the tightrope walkers. You're trying to represent the employees and at the same time management. And I appreciate what you're doing, and thank you for the position that you've put yourself in here, because really the way that I see this success is if the people trust the fact that you are going to be doing your job, and you will indeed notify the mayor or Allison if that should be the case. But in my opinion, I really don't see that we need to hire an investigator at this point to go walking around City Hall interviewing people and find out if they're happy with everything. I believe the more effective way to do it is to make sure we're communicating to the employees that they do have the ability to come directly to you, and that then, if by chance it is someone above you that they're concerned about, that it's going to go to the mayor, and likewise, and at that point, we would hire an investigator to dig into the situation and make sure it's valid. And I guess that's just where I'm coming from with this.
Okay, Ms. Vanderwell.
Thank you. And I will tell you, the reason I have brought this forward is, of course, in reading surveys and everything else, our employees don't trust that when they're coming to HR, that they are getting what they need. So this is why I'm trying to and get as specific as I can. But the thing is that's a concern. Okay. And I've encouraged people to go to HR, and I've encouraged them to go to the mayor also. But the unfortunate part is we have employees here that do not feel comfortable doing that. So my concern is yes, I need them to, I've encouraged them to, but I am trying to make it so that our employees are being heard, and that they feel that they can go to a safe place to be heard. And that has just been my biggest concern through the whole thing.
Okay, Mr. Abbott.
Thinking of an idea so we can get through this sooner than later. Would it be possible for us to maybe do like a do not exceed number, and we can maybe all get together as individuals with the investigators, as well as hopefully some employees that may want to speak up? But I do agree with Councilwoman Vanderwell. I think that people are just worried about making statements. And so I think doing this in more of a private setting, obviously within open meeting law requirements, of course, of getting some of those feedbacks from those people, because I agree with everything that she said on that. So is that a doable idea, that we can get together individually with a investigator and talk about things?
Well, I am looking for your direction. I do want to bring it back to the reality that we can't promise anonymity. If people are bringing complaints forward, that's the challenge. So what I would recommend, normally an investigator, they're looking to speak with someone who has firsthand knowledge. So if there are those on the council who have firsthand knowledge that they would want, and they would want to be interviewed themselves, or if there are those on the council that have people, who would come forward and be a part of an investigation, that's the easiest path forward. What you're recommending, meeting with an investigator, I still think that the investigator is going to, it comes to the scope. They're gonna still, whether they're asking me, whether they're asking you, they need a defined scope so that they can make a proposal.
So could we have a defined scope of having them reach out to us, or?
So I think,
I know.
I think where we're going is we need a specific motion about a specific investigation that she can actually do a proposal, a request for proposal. Am I getting that as succinct as possible?
Correct. Where really the mayor and I can work with an investigator to have them provide a proposal that comes back to council.
Okay. Ms.
So-
Ivy.
so
Go ahead,
just
Mr.
real
Clark.
quick, so I think to try to keep this thing
Moving.
on the guardrails here. Let's, if it's the pleasure of a council member to want to make a motion, I think it'd be probably prudent to try to take 5 minutes and try to gather your thoughts and to try to give Jill what she's looking for as the human resources director in terms of that specificity. If it's the pleasure of the council to not do that, then there probably won't have to be a motion. So I think what I think we don't want to be doing is kind of on the fly here, trying to put together a motion and, doing those type of things. If we want to do it right, I think you take 5 minutes, try to craft a motion, and then put that before the body, and then the body can vote on whether or not they want to move forward in that manner.
I'm going to say something before.
Yeah.
All right, we take a 5-minute break. We still got a public hearing. And I think we've discussed this pretty well. So we're looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott.
I move to direct the hiring of a third-party investigator to initiate a complaint-driven investigation into the city manager and the performance of his duties under his contract as it relates to toxic leadership, negative employee survey results, employee morale, gender bias, or whether the city manager is exercising the care, skill, and diligence of a reasonably prudent executive.
Okay, so I've got a motion. And then Ms. Vanderwell.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
I have one question.
I have further discussion. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Dare.
Is there a cost that we're willing, because she asked that, is there, or you're going to come back and tell us what that means? Because that's a lot.
It's
stuff.
difficult for me to say what the cost would be. So it is something that we'd have to bring back to council.
Okay.
Complaint driven.
That's fine.
May make it a little bit more challenging to determine the cost of the investigation, just because we don't know how many complaints there might be. But I could certainly bring something back with a recommended investigator and more information about their engagement letter.
Mike, real question. This isn't a blanket. Go spend anything you want to get this thing done. We're just making a motion, so our names are on. I just want to make sure it's clear that we're looking for an investigation, but you're going to come back and let us know what this could look like. Okay,
The
then I'm
plan,
fine.
so that you are comfortable with it being an independent investigation, is to come back to you.
Okay.
Ms. Vanderwell.
And so I have clarity in here. So when you come back with whatever the fees are for a complaint-driven investigation, I want employees to know that they are just to go straight to the third-party investigator, that it does not go through HR. They just go to the third party, okay? That's how I want it set up.
Can we do that, Wes? I mean, to me, we're farming out human resources that way.
I don't know if this is a legal question, to be quite candid with you. I think
Well,
certainly.
Let me make it a legal question. We farm it out to a third-party investigator, the people's names come up and they get published in the newspaper. Now you have a suit, right?
I'm not, that's an interesting hypo. I think if you're hiring a third-party investigator who will do a private investigation, that private investigator, at least from what I've seen from standard practices, isn't going to go into the media or go be telegraphing that. So I think if I understand the motion, it'd be an investigator that would be consistent with past practices from other HR-related type investigations.
I'm not sure we've ever had something where the complaint wasn't initiated in human resources. And the other challenge is just the scheduling. Normally, we help schedule the investigator with our employees who may be witnesses. And then we need to manage their time, their paid time for participating. So there are some logistics that are difficult to completely farm out like that.
Sir, can I say something?
Go ahead.
I think HR should be involved. I think a third party, okay.
I'll back off.
Okay. I think your role is important. This has to be an unbiased third party is what we're looking for. So your role needs to be determined correctly. And with that said, part of that is is whatever's said or done, it is to protect all employees, every one of them, including the one sitting next to me. And so with that said, I think HR is important to be there. However, well, you said you'd back off on it. So, okay, thank you.
Mr. Anderson.
Actually, I was just going to say the same thing. The HR, they're the ones that our employees are to go to. And to move them to a third party directly, I disagree with completely. So the one thing that I would say is again, if we utilize a third party, once a complaint has come in and the mayor has had a chance to see it as well, that's where I think we need to bring a third party in. I don't think we need to hire someone right off the bat.
Mr. Mayor.
Just a second. Ms. Bybee?
I would be fine going through HR if we knew this was specific, different than what you're already doing when you do private investigation. What triggers it now? This would be specifically the complaint-driven investigation under this motion, that you would come to HR and you would directly work with the contracted private investigator, whether it's an hourly rate, whatever an RFP would come forward from an investigator. And I understand, the logistics that you're dealing with, but I think understanding that, so that employees know and trust that it would go to this step and that they wouldn't worry about it going to HR and trusting whether there'd be retribution. That's kind of, that I think is kind of my concern, and I want to make sure employees are, feel safe, doing that, and really, because we need to work it out at the end. Whatever the issues are, the goal is to resolve them for the employee, for the manager, for HR, for the city, and we want to do that in an open and trusting system that people feel that it's working, and then see if action is needed, and if so, what, and move forward from there.
I think to your question, is this the same as if we weren't here today and we got a complaint, this is basically the same as what we would do. We do have policies in place for retaliation, which I think is what you're talking about. So if it were to come to my attention that there was potential retaliation, that in itself is a complaint that goes back to that independent investigator. So really what you're describing is what the current process is. But what I'm hearing is more a desire to have more communication with employees about what that would look like.
Mr. Abbott?
I'm just going to amend the motion, just add in to direct the hiring of a third-party investigator to work with HR to initiate a complaint-driven, and the rest there. If that's good with you guys, just to take some feedback.
Vanderwell has a second?
I'm good with that.
Okay. So we have a amended motion. Do you need to correct that, Julie?
Yes.
You got it.
Do we have to? I feel like, yeah, there's a motion on the floor, so we need to.
Can I rescind my motion, please?
Okay, and I'll rescind mine.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. I move to direct the hiring of a third-party investigator to work with the human resources to initiate a complaint-driven investigation into the city manager and the performance of his duties under his contract as it relates to toxic leadership, negative employee survey results, employee morale, gender bias, or whether the city manager is exercising the care, skill, and diligence of a reasonable, prudent executive.
We have a motion by Mr. Abbott. Ms. Vanderwell?
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Vanderwell. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Moving on. Madam Clerk, 916, we have a first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the first reading of Bill Number 2811 to rezone a 4.1 acre site located at 2770 Spanish Springs Road, APN 516-281-03, and 1470 Disk Drive, APN 514-081-01, Sparks, Nevada, from PF Public Facilities and A5 Agricultural to C2 General Commercial. A public hearing will be held and Bill 2811 will be acted upon at the regular meeting of the Sparks City Council on Monday, June 26, 2023, at 2 p.m. in the City Council Legislative Building.
Okay, moving on to public hearing and action items unrelated to planning and zoning. 10.1, public hearing. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is public hearing on the intent of the City of Sparks, Nevada to issue general obligation, limited tax fire station bonds additionally secured by pledged revenues in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $15 million for the purpose of acquiring, improving, and equipping fire protection projects as defined in NRS 268.688 and/or building projects as defined in NRS 268.676, including but not limited to fire protection and firefighting facilities.
Mr. Cronk.
Jeff Cronk, Chief Financial Officer for the record.
Tell me some good news.
I am only here to answer some questions because this could be very quick. How about that for good
Tell me
news?
the bond rates have dropped in half.
We only need to hold a public hearing as required by law, considering, as we're in the process of considering issuing the fire station bonds. So this is the item before you today. There's no action required, no presentation required. Just open the public hearing and take public comment should there be any.
Any questions from the council first? Okay, this is a public hearing. Anyone in the public wishing to speak at this time? All right, we'll bring it back to, does someone want to speak? Did I miss? Oh, you're just messing with me. It's usually Bill. We don't need it, nothing.
Nope, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. That was, wow. If I'd have known that was that easy, I would have started with it. Okay, we don't have any planning zoning public hearings. Comments from the public. Anyone in the public wishing to speak at this time? Anybody in the public wishing? Bill, you got to speak way up for us. We don't have a mic.
The last time you have a chance to speak,
Yes.
I have two questions. One is, I'd like to talk to Neil about the budget numbers after the meeting.
Okay.
Two is 9.15. Mr. Mayor, the city manager works so closely together all the time. I think we just have one person running in the six categories as well. And then we did have the mayor, be the person who elects you and nobody else.
Okay. All right.
My suggestion. My brilliant suggestion.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the public wishing to speak at this time? Okay. With that, announcements from the mayor, city council, city manager. Mr. Manager, you got anything?
Nothing today, thank you.
City council? Mr. Abbott?
Yeah, there's no way I was gonna make a comment earlier. I was trying not to cry like I think some of us, but Gino Martini Celebration of Life is June 24th. It's Saturday at 11 over at the Rock Church for anyone that's still listening. And it's 1,000 seats. We should have no problem filling them up, but everyone's invited.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, another great successful free fishing day by the Sparks Rotary Club. A good time was had by all. Unfortunately, I missed it because I was in Ely with some mayors, but one of my favorite events for Rotary. All right, anyone else? And we're off to adjournment.